I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. This is the portion of the meeting that we open it up for anybody that's got any comments, suggestions, want to bring something in front of the board. We can't act on it, but we'll take it under advisement and talk about it at another meeting. So if anybody that's got anything, it's not on the agenda. All right.
Would this be a good time to talk about trial?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. I've been talking with Robert Ritchie about, we talked probably 2 years ago, wasn't it? Probably longer, about selling them some of our property out there on south of them out there. I think there's like 60 acres, if I'm not wrong. I think they were interested in purchasing 60 acres. That nothing really happened to that. We had a lot of discussion on it, but they would like to start again. I think they're talking about growth. They want the land. They don't want to get locked in. So I talked to Robert and said maybe I could hook our attorney back up with him and they could start talking again if the board feels comfortable with that.
Randy? Well, I guess that's not really up for discussion right now. So.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's a request to take like final action. I think
No.
just in terms of like consensus, I could reach out to them, or you could give them my information, and they can call me.
Yeah, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but we at least, they were our second largest employer in the county, I believe, and I think it's good to hear them and listen to them.
Okay. Well,
Has price been talked about or anything like that?
Do
I
what?
think that'd be something that would
yeah,
happen.
that's a negotiation.
Yeah.
Okay. I just didn't know if it had already been talked about.
No. Well, I think we talked about it a couple of years ago, but I can't remember. I would lie to you if I told you I knew a number, but and actually, if I'm not mistaken, it wasn't a bad offer. It was just that I think they stepped away from it because of manpower. They were having trouble at the time, having enough employees to run the shifts they were having. But now, and I think it's still the same thing John's talking about. They own property up there, and I'm sure they don't want to go somewhere else to have a secondary plan or whatever. They can just continue to build on to what they have. So.
And I think they did add on.
They did add
30
on.
jobs.
I think they had some like 20 acres or something behind what they did, and they did build on their property that they had additionally. But I think I'm sure they're wanting the rest of it too. So.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. I've been asked to change the agenda around just a little bit, so Tammy wouldn't have done this, but
Somehow you forced your hand. I don't
but
know what you did.
Kevin's got a short something he's got to say, and then he's going to get out of here. So, want to.
I feel guilty now.
Not for how long?
Yeah. I got two things in real quick. This is real quick. We changed a bunch of signs, the emergency vehicle weight limits on several bridges. I just
saw
emailed
that.
all you guys that. Here's a copy, but
I've actually drove across a couple of them, saw the new signage, or
yeah, so we'll get those passed out to, I just sent them to Jeff, Nick, and the sheriff, and we'll get them passed out to the fire chiefs and stuff, throughout the county. Okay, the next thing is, I was talking to Randy. We was talking about equipment, so on and so forth. So, I think one thing I talked about when I started here was chip equipment, so we just kind of wanted to put our plug in the highway department for funds for chip equipment, tractors, that we're down on. I guess the long and the short of it, A new chipper's roughly 300,000, a pneumatic roller's 125,000, a distributor's 150,000. Like we
That's all
all,
new.
that's new prices. I think on the chip equipment, that's kind of shooting for the moon. And gotta go from there. We can definitely get better prices, but it's used equipment. That comes with the whole thing too. We are down a semi, so I'm paying a contractor to move the paver every time we need to try to move it around.
Question with that, is that, do you need a single axle semi or a,
We just need
Tandem
a
axle.
tandem axle, cause the paver's 50,000 pounds.
so a single axle wouldn't get it?
Not too heavy. Just, you know, we do not need a new semi, by any sort of means, because we don't drive it enough miles, so. Anywhere from probably 30 to 50,000 would get.
So do we have a trailer to haul it on? Or
We
just
do.
don't have the trailer?
We have a
to hold the
trailer that was bought, prior to me, like they bought 2 new trailers, one of them being a semi-trailer. But right now, we're out of a semi. Probably the one that we did have was too light duty, and that's probably why the transmission was out of it. I think it was more like it was an automatic, like maybe a Mountain Dew or a Pepsi hauler type of thing. We put a load on it. And tractors, I think that's been an ongoing thing this year.
Still.
Just an update, the John Deere, just so you know, it's sitting back out on Beauregardus Road after we got it back twice. The injection pump's back out of it. Talked to John Deere last night. They're coming out Thursday night or Friday to put another remanufactured pump on it. There's 4 of those pumps in the United States that exist that are remans. We've already used 3 of them. And there's no new pumps available, period, for that particular pump and that tractor. I'm just telling you what John Deere told me. So
I guess.
that's kind of been an ongoing thing since COVID, I think, parts. So anyway, that makes the 3rd pump on that tractor, and I'm not sure.
Is there a reason why it keeps going out, or is it
Well, I
just?
can give you John Deere's technical term. With the diesel pump is timed with the valves opening and closing. They keep jumping time with the remanufactured pump. And they said they're not very good. That's when they try to give them some new ones, they said they would eat the cost to get a brand new one, just because of the troubles. They can't get it, it's not available. So they got us another reman pump, and they're gonna put it on there, but they didn't give me a lot of hope that that was gonna be a long-term fix. The military tractor has a side mount mower on it. That was, the best I can date it, maybe an 02, maybe older, not for sure. All the bearings and races are out of it. We went to get parts. There's a bearing and race right now that we cannot get. We've got everything else, but we can't get the bearing and race. I'm hoping it comes in, it's on back order. They haven't gave us a date on it. So that's just kind of where we stand with the mowers. I think they've served their purpose. I think the John Deere's a good tractor. I think that's just a stroke of bad luck. I mean, I think it's a good tractor to a certain extent, I guess. But if we can't, we're looking at $115,000 would be top price for a new tractor, a piece. So, we're gonna ask for 2. So that's $230,000. We'll settle for what we get. But, right now, the tractors is something that we're gonna have to have. Even if we go with the contractor, we gotta have at least one dependable tractor.
When do you need it, Kevin? I mean, I know you need it now.
Yesterday would have probably been nice.
What are we looking at here?
I'll have to talk to whatever vendor we go with on the lead time on new equipment right now too. The last I talked to them, it didn't look that bad. 4 or 5 months, but if we're looking at next season, we need to start looking right now. John Deere processed that one through Sourcewell. Sourcewell is the government contract. I have to get with Zach on this, but I think if I understand it right, we don't even have to price it 3 ways, as long as they're pricing through Sourcewell. It's already a
They
government.
have a contract with the
Yeah.
state to provide services, I think it falls into the section.
So they're already standing up, giving you the best price you're gonna get, in other words. So,
We're talking 110 a piece.
yeah, you're looking at the John Deere's and the, you know, I think it was around 98, the Kubota come back at 115.
That's unusual.
I like to look at, like I spoke to Randy today about the Cats or Challengers too. I don't know. I don't really have a pick. I mean, the John Deere's down, the Fords are broke, they all break, so.
All the time.
Yeah, I don't have a particular pick. I mean, we can take the best price and the best equipment that we can get with that price. But anyway, I guess that's it. I was just the plug on the money. So, you know, you're looking at for a semi, new tractor, and chip equipment is $855,000. We can get way under that with used equipment on the chip equipment, but
So is there used chip equipment out there?
yeah. I actually just got off the phone with a guy. So a lot of the used chip equipment is getting exported overseas. So, I was talking to him and they buy it from all the municipalities. They're buying it all up and taking it down there and shipping it overseas.
Double
So
your money.
you gotta be able to try to beat them to it. Or you can buy it off of them, but there it is. You know, I think it can be bought. You gotta be ready to buy it. So I guess what I'd be asking for, if you decide to go that route, is give us a budget number saying, you know, this is your money to get chip equipment, so we can look, and then if it comes up, then we can move on a little quicker.
In my opinion, I think we'd be better off just go ahead and purchase new.
Yeah, I mean,
It ain't like we're in the business of, you know,
right. Yeah, I mean, I can't say new ain't the best, but, you know, it's a pretty good investment for initially.
it is.
I think on the chip equipment, something to look at is, I mean, you're not gonna pave in this county unless it's full grant work, so, you know, you pay when you get the grant money. And when you don't have grant money, you know, you need to be chipping, you always need to be chipping every year, but you can actually do that on county money. You're not paving on county, you're just gonna patch on county money, you're not paving anything. It's too high, it's went up, so. That's all I got.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting Kevin go first.
See you guys. Phil?
How are y'all doing tonight?
Oh, we're great.
It's good to see you all.
Thank you.
Watch this, Mike. So I know y'all have my contact info in there, but I had to put it in there for Tammy actually, because she keeps spelling my name wrong on the agenda.
Did I
So-
just do it wrong again?
We'll talk about that offline.
Okay. Oh, I see.
But what I came here to actually have a conversation with you all about a new program that we've actually started. We started implementing it in June. It's called we call it the IRAX program. It is the acronym for that breaks down to Integrated Reentry and Correctional Support Program. It's where we take 5 full-time peer coaches and we put them in jail 40 hours a week. And what they do is, instead of just working with one population, where it's like a JCAP or what most county jails have now, which is the JCAP programs, we work with everyone that becomes incarcerated. So, because if there's a reason someone was incarcerated, there's something going on that we can see if we can help with, other than just SUD and mental health. So, if you open up, and the one on front's kind of just a breakdown of your side on your right-hand side. If you open up the little 3-pager I got on the back there, I just kind of want to show you what it looks like. So we started our trainings on this in June. We did about, before I get started, I'll introduce you to Jamie Whitaker. This is the Vice President of Indiana Forensic Services with Winter Hills Medical. He's the architect of this program, actually. So our jail population, this is just for August. So we got in there July 7th is when we started kicking off. In June, we did over 22 days of intensive training to get ready to put our to get in there to work with our populations at the jail. July 7th, we kicked off, and then something happened, which I never thought would happen in the middle of summer, COVID. And so we had to do some virtual stuff for a little bit. We still kept in touch and we still worked with our population, but not as intense as we can do one-on-one. So in the last few weeks, we got back in there in August. And if you look at these numbers, the first pie chart there, the total population was 162 at the end of August. The ones that are out of county were 11 people. And the ones not eligible for the program are the ones identified by the jailer, the jail commander, people that may be high violence, stuff like that, something that you don't want our teams to work with. On the back page, you'll see some of the things that we have done since we've been in there. We've had over 158 brief engagements, 8 different comprehensive engagements, 107 brief intakes, and then 78 full intakes. So full intakes gets just about almost, 87 pieces of demographical content that we pull reports on. And we level these out, and we kind of have it broken down here for you all too in the 5 different levels. So we have level A, which are long-term population incarcerated, maybe people that discovery's taking too long, or they're fighting their case, or something's going on. So they're
Serving time.
right. Then we have the level B, which is our community reentry. And then we have a level C, which these are the ones that are going to IDOC. So on the majority of what happens inside the jail population, if you go to IDOC, it's kind of go to your time, and you come back, we'll work with you, right? What we do is actually we have a partnership with IDOC, and we find out where they're going, what programs are available to where they're going. We get with them, get them enrolled with. We offer family support when they go to IDOC, what that's going to look like for the family, how to contact them, that kind of piece. And then we also have a 30-day, with everything we do, we have a 30-day part where we keep track of them for 30 days after they leave, right? So that means we're in contact with IDOC. How are they doing? Are they doing okay? Are they reintegrating well into IDOC? Stuff like that. And then we have level D, which is your bond and conditional release. People when they get incarcerated on a Friday and bonded out Monday morning or however that looks. Even if our people aren't inside the jail, they're going to get a packet and our people are going to contact you. And this is a voluntary program, so if someone signs they don't want us to contact them, we won't, obviously. But we'll contact even the people that get bonded out because it's more of a conditional release. And then level E's, there's 70 ones in the population that are level E. Level E is the ones that refuse any service, right? I don't have a problem, the cops are just picking on me, right? And to be honest, since we've been inside the jail, that has actually decreased. Because at first, these were the ones that were like, oh, it's telehealth stuff, I don't want to do with it. But once we started getting in the jail and they saw what we were doing, they want to be a part of what we're doing, right? And so we've actually seen that number for September will actually decrease quite a bit. You see, we've had 18 releases in August that were released back into the community. We have 11 referrals. We have 2 of those individuals that we got birth certificates before they got let out, and 2 of them we re-established insurance before they got let out. So what we do is we actually have some relationships with the DMV, and so if we have you for a little bit over 28 days, you will leave there with a birth certificate, social security card, and a state issued ID, not a piece of paper. Because one of the biggest barriers for people when they come out of incarceration is work and housing. 2 things you can't get with a paper ID. Even our homeless shelter that we have, the Catalyst House down in Jeffersonville, most of the time will not take you on a paper ID. You have to have a state issued ID. So what they do is they bring their mobile unit in, we'll take a picture, and then before you leave, we'll actually have a state issued ID for you. So really and then on the rest of the people that are leaving, so the ones that get released, you have a recovery coach that's working with you the entire time that you're in there. We have, like I said, those 5 coaches. One's a supervisor, one's a navigator. So he does all the navigational piece, right? Like so hook you up with housing, hook treatment when you get out, and applications to where you're trying to go. The other one is called our probation and courts coach. That one is actually in court every single day. We work very closely with Judge Mount and Judge Frazier. And so they'll actually ask them on the bench, hey, we have a recovery coach here, would you like to talk to them before you leave? And we work with them. They also work with the probation department, community corrections, and trying to see if we can have these conversations about, is there an diversion piece, can this work here, or is this someone, what do we need to do, what kind of level we put them. Then we also have a peer recovery coach that their only job inside of there is one-on-one connections. So even the level E's that we said want nothing to do with this, we're still gonna stop in the block and say, hey, how you doing? You doing okay? Is there anything you need today? If they say no, we'll leave them alone. If they do wanna engage with us, we'll try and give them some kind of support. We'll even do that for people out of county. We just won't do it as intensive, as what we're doing. The last one that we have in there is called our Matrix Facilitator. And he facilitates a group. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups that he does a week. And so that is about an hour and a half per group. And we do a male and a female population. And then we do something called a RAP group as well. So that way they're getting that group facilitation. We use evidence-based practices. So the Matrix has a very special one called criminal justice, where people are incarcerated. So we really try to get them out of that mindset and start working with them. One thing, if you look with that 18 people that were released in August, and you all know the kind of work we do, when they get released to a community-based coach, okay? And so the community-based coach and the IRAC's reentry coach work hand in hand for at least 30 days. So you'll actually have 2 coaches when that happens. And that coach will stay with you, for the IRAC's coach will stay with you and do check-ins on 7, 14, and 30 days, right? To make sure that you are, because our biggest issue that we have with any of our population that gets released is making them to that first appointment, right? And right now, the last numbers I've just seen were 129% of people that get released with SUD issues are overdosing in the first 2 weeks. So we're really trying to make sure that first appointment, even if our people will walk out with you on that Sally Port, they get released to us and we'll take you to that first appointment. So if that is outpatient, you're going to a house, or you're going to your first appointment with Life Springs, we're making sure that's happening. And so with that being said, we have an amazing program that we're building and we're doing here. And I'll let Jamie speak in just a minute about kind of where it all started.
No, you won't.
Well, I love to talk, John. But this is something that we've implemented under the governor's initiative. And they came down and gave us tremendous support. With that being said, when we talked last year, I remember we came here and we had conversations and we talked about what can we do for our population, right? What's some things we can put in place for our population? I know we talked a little bit about maybe redoing some work over in a building or whatever. But where I'm asking for support and help is in my community-based team. Because with that population being released, you all know the kind of work we do, but I'm at capacity in my community. So I just need to get some more coaches in place. With that said, I'll let Jamie kind of tell you about where it started and what the next steps are.
Well, I think you did a great job talking about the program. I think the biggest thing to say is we have 5 pilot sites across the state. It was funded by Next Level in the governor's office and the Indiana Division of Mental Health and Addiction. And this is all Recovery Works funding. So Scott County got to be one of the 5 pilot sites in the state to create this model, and the governor's office's intention is to expand this statewide to all 91 of the jails across the state. So the exciting thing is that Scott once again gets to be a leader in creating solutions for people across the state. And what we're seeing is we have high engagement with the jail programs. So a lot of people getting involved, a lot of people getting engaged, and really helping people get out. Like as I said, you guys had 18 people in the last month here that's been released from the jail and get them into services. So the challenge with that is it puts a bigger stressor on the community-based teams. So the program that I have through IRACS and Indiana Forensic Services is ultimately to fund jail services team. And Thrive's been around for a while, been working here for a long time in the community. So I don't have any more funding really, unfortunately, to provide that to the different communities. So Delaware County, Dearborn County, and Howard County are 3 of the counties that are working with this program. So I worked with the state and county leader, or the county and city leadership, and the goal was to say, hey, how can we bolster the community-based team to make sure, because if we're going to get a lot more people out of jail, which is the goal, and get them engaged in services and doing well, we want to keep them out of jail. Because the whole point is reducing the jail population, the burden on the jails, the burden on the department in the jail, on the sheriff's department, and then ultimately make sure that if someone is incarcerated in the county jail, that they're there because they're a safety challenge for the community, or a safety challenge for themselves. Not, if they're not, we need to get them out and get them to treatment. And that's the goal of the IRACS program. So we've been working with the county commissioners and the mayors in all three of these counties. And the great thing is we've asked the city and the county both to, if they would be willing to support new peer coaches for the community teams. And so in Dearborn County, Howard County, and in Delaware County, the county commissioners gave up $50,000 to provide funding to hire more peer coaches, and the city leadership did the same. So I think ultimately looking at it, with the increase, I'm actually really surprised at how the engagement level has increased here in Scott in the first month. And we're seeing a continued burden growing, and I think that as we had conversations about it, I told Phil the best thing to do would be come in and talk to city county leadership and see if there's a way to build collaboration between the IRX program, what we're doing, and looking at how you support the community-based team.
You said Delaware, Howard, Dearborn, Scott, and there's a fifth one?
Blackburn.
Blackburn?
Yeah, Blackford.
Blackford, yeah.
Blackford, I'm sorry.
So in the beginning, you said something about the governor was supporting this,
Yes,
Yeah.
this is what it is.
financially supporting
He
it?
did. That's how we hired the full-time staff to go into the jail. He gave us 1 year of funding to hire them.
Yeah.
And that's why recovery works. So as of 9/1, Thrive, so in July, we actually became the first certified RCO in the state of Indiana. So that's a huge accomplishment for Scott County. And don't worry, everywhere I go, I make sure they know Scott County's got the first RCO in the state of Indiana. So, but they gave us the accessibility of billing recovery works with that. And so this is actually a sustainable program with billing recovery works. I just don't have the funding up front to hire the community pieces that I would need.
But I guess that's where I'm getting at, is if the governor's supporting it, and he's gonna financially support it, then is he only supporting it to get it started and then gonna lay the cost off on counties?
Well, we originally put about $350,000 into the IRX program in the jail, not to mention whatever is being funded through the community program. And then this programming all comes out of Recovery Works, so it's a sustainable program. The jail program is a sustainable program. So starting in May, when the grant funds run out, Thrive will be able to bill for the community work in the jail and through the county, and bill for those services.
Yeah, so not only they give us the startup funds, and they're also the ones that help give us the grant for our community, but that's at capacity as well. So, do they give us a certain amount of, because you know what the areas we cover, they give us a certain amount for those areas. So with that also being said, I have to cover those areas. And so that's why this is just for Scott County, what we're doing in the IRX program. So they gave us the forward support, and then they gave us the back end support by opening up Recovery Works. I just need, and this isn't something I'm asking to become in the budget for, I'm asking for a one-time conversation and help and the support to help me with the overages to get my community built up.
The other counties are putting money into this?
You got 3 different counties?
Yeah, Dearborn, Delaware, and Howard, all three did. County commissioners and the mayor. And we're still meeting with Davies. I got a meeting with Davies in a few weeks.
Okay.
So I mean, you know, the unfortunate thing here was the COVID thing happened, because it would have been, your engagement level probably higher. We have about anywhere from 80 to 93% engagement levels in the other counties. So you get 500 people in jail, and you got 93% of them engaging in the program, and we start working on diversion and diversion with the prosecutor's office and the judges, and different symptom modification to get people out to treatment. It's a pretty big stress on the community teams. And I mean, honestly, we didn't think that these many counties would have this much engagement level.
I think the engagement level has been a very big surprise.
So what kind of success rate do you have?
Well, we've been in for 1 month, so, and I'll let him speak, because actually, this started 2 years ago in Howard County.
3 years ago. Yeah.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
So he ran that program, and that's where this all conversation came from, so you can tell about your success rate.
When we originally started this, we were working with Howard County Commissioner Paul Wyman and Mayor Tyler Moore and Sheriff Asher in Howard County. And we had our jail population, the capacity in the jail was about 504, and we were running about anywhere from 550 to 560 in the jail. So the capacity issue became a big problem in the jail. And the majority of the population was in there was struggling with substance use disorder. So we began to look at, solutions. What can we do? And this is where the program came from. So we put a team of people working in the jails. Within about a year and a half, we were able to get the population down to the mid-4s, but we're from 440 up to 460, and now I think it's holding pretty steady between 430 and
I got a
450.
question about that. Are you saying that your program can reduce somebody's sentence?
No, well,
So I mean,
the program works
they're in
on.
there for X amount of days, they're gonna be in there X amount of days, whether you're talking to them or you're not talking to them, correct?
Potentially, I mean, there's a thing called sequential intercept model, which is something that the Indiana Department of Corrections and state courts, everyone works on through the Criminal Justice Institute. So it is a evidence-based model that looks at court systems and how can we reduce jail populations for people who are not a safety risk for the community or not a safety risk for themselves. And how do we look at people who are incarcerated who might be better served in other places, like in inpatient treatment rather than sitting in jail, if they're not a safety risk for the community. And ultimately the judges and prosecutors want to make that decision, not the team. What we do is we provide intake, information, story support while we're in jail. And if what I did is work pretty closely with the judges and the prosecutor's office. And if they said, hey, John Doe's in jail and he's not a safety risk for the community, he's obviously struggling with substance use disorder, and it'd be better for him to be in treatment, we're going to order that out. Our job is to make sure that we set up the treatment, got them transportation, provide them support, stay with them as they go, make sure they stay where they are. If they leave, we communicate with probation, of course, community corrections. So it's a partnership where the peers are allowed to partner with the courts and all the different partners and make sure that we keep people engaged and we keep them on the radar. So,
What was your recidivism rate in the 2 years for new charges?
with all the majors, we had less than 10% people coming back to jail if they attend the program. It's a 9-month program.
You mentioned $50,000 a while ago. Is that what you're getting from each county?
In the counties that have worked with the city, county,
The city and the county
city and county
together
both
putting
pointed
up
to
50,000?
Yep.
So
Yes,
when
sir.
he said that, so the county would put up 50 and then you had the city put up the other 50.
Okay, I didn't know if you meant 25 and
Yeah.
25.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have had conversations, unfortunately Mayor Hawkins had surgery when we had this conversation, so he sent a representative. But I did speak with Mayor Amick as well about having this conversation. Mayor Amick told me that he's all for the conversation, wants to support the best way they can. Of course, I need to take it to their councils as
Yeah.
well.
So this $100,000 will get us by for a year, what's that?
This
I know you said
$100,000
it's to start us off.
Yeah, so it starts off, so if my plan with that $100,000 is to put 3 new recovery coaches back in the community. So putting those back in the community while I'm building out the recovery works, I will be able to have that in my sustainability piece. So that way, because that money comes in about, well, you know the government when they pay out. So with up to about 45 days, could be 90 days. And so I'm sitting on a cushion of money that I don't have to give out. I don't have, I'm a nonprofit. I don't have money sitting back there to pay payroll to sit on for 3 months. But by the time we get all this built through, that's gonna hold us for a good 6 to 8 months.
Well, that's where I'm going. Is this gonna be, I think we kind of discussed this earlier, but is it gonna be a one-time thing?
One-time thing.
And after that, I heard you say something about,
The grant runs through May, and the goal would be to hire community peers that would run through then. And at that point, the goal would be to be able to build those community peers that you guys helped get going.
you'll
through
build
those
who
community
you
teams.
gonna build?
Recovery works.
Indiana Recovery Works.
So you'll build them and they'll pay it after
Yep.
they
Yeah.
get started?
Yeah, after you get them, so it's kind of an expansion.
Okay.
That money allowed him to expand his team. Once his team's up and going operational, then he'd be able to build those team.
And
those team members.
another thing that the governor's office actually announced is their plan within 3 years is to push this through. So not only do they make that announcement in Delaware County, where their goal is to have this all in 91 counties. I said 91. Check this out, you ready? I said 91 because Ohio doesn't have a jail. They're building one right now. It's a 10-bed
Which is
jail.
exciting.
So
Well,
it's more like a vacation stay.
Wouldn't we like to see that again?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they take theirs to Dearborn. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still a little on the confused side with the governor's input here. It seems like he wants to support a program that he can verbally say, I'm supporting a program, but the pocketbook's not coming with it, so.
Well, the bad thing is the federal government actually earmarked this money for criminal justice, which means that the money that they gave me has to be used for incarcerated individuals. I can't use that for people in the community.
So with the opioid settlement that just happened and the Attorney General has 70% of that money that he's supposed to be using for programs and stuff, if anybody went to the Attorney General and asked him for the money that's supposed to be spent only for opioid situations?
So there's about 4 bills on the docket for next session, I think, where they're looking at just that. So ultimately, I don't know if that's gonna help him in the meantime, in the interim where he's at. And I think we are looking at, again, as I said, we knew this program was successful because it's been successful in the time we're in Howard County. I don't know that we expected the engagement rates to be as high as they would right out of the gate. We're only, I mean, 2 months in most of these counties, and to have a, 70 to 90% engagement rate is pretty high. You start seeing people getting out of jail, which is good, it's a positive thing. It's just putting
They stay out.
stress on the team, yeah. Just keeping them out, so they don't come back.
So what happens if you don't get to fit to the 100,000? Program die?
No, program's gonna keep going. I'm gonna just,
I mean, volunteers or what?
I mean, if you got any spare time, I'd love to see it, John.
No, I mean
I'll put you through
that
some-
as a, how would we keep it going? That's what I mean.
I don't know, and I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure that doesn't happen, because one thing I don't wanna do, because right now it's, where I'm at capacity, right? And I wanna make sure that I set the people that are being released up for success with my coaches and not failure. And if I need to do the best I can to make sure I get those wraparound services.
So you wanna get somebody hard as quick as possible?
Exactly.
So you need the money
Exactly.
soon, very soon, okay.
And we provided funding to hold on to people for that first 30 days that they get out. And we monitor them during that first 30 days to say, are they staying engaged? Did they make it to the probation officer? Are they making it to any further court dates? Are they going to their treatment? Are they going to see their psychiatrist or their therapist? Are they making it? And our teams do that. But at the 30-day mark, our funding stops.
Will you report back to us?
Absolutely.
I mean, I know you report to the sheriff's
Yeah.
office, that's who you're dealing with.
Yeah, so I report not only back to the state, we
Yeah.
report that back, we actually report that quite a bit, but we report all that information as well, gets reported back to the sheriff's office. Obviously, even if you guys say no, if you guys wanna know what's going on, I'll always come back and report that, if you want it on a monthly, quarterly, every 6 months. But I think you should know, I mean, here's the thing, I mean, this is our community. And I think, what's happening in this community, you all should be aware of, and what the successes are happening in this community. And so I would definitely want to make you all aware of that.
And you mentioned the opiate money, I know, we don't have any of that yet, do we? But we've been told it's coming, do we know, have any idea when?
It don't matter, we're gonna get paid out for 18 years, so.
Well, and I know that, but you're gonna get an initial lump sum,
There
that's
was-
pretty good.
There was a schedule that was released. I
And
wanna
there
say
was
that
certain money they give us, they might as well not gave it to us, because they tell us how to
You
spend
have
it.
to use it for,
Have-
there is a restricted portion that has to be used for
Prevention.
prevention, recovery.
But we don't have anything now we could help them with on that.
I don't think we've received
I don't,
anything.
yeah, I don't think so either. So is that, what's that leave, ARPA? I'm asking.
Yeah, I'm really, that, as far as discretionary funds, you have your, it would be governed by the ordinance you pass to go with it, and I don't think your county timber fund ordinance nor your rental proceeds ordinance would cover that, so right now, unless council would find some way to appropriate it through some other fund that they have.
And-
What they're asking for you is,
Yeah.
the gateway is them as
Yeah.
far as
Right.
access to
Where's the
ARPA
money?
funds.
And then, like I said, I know that, back in June and early May last year, we were talking about using ARPA to figure out something to help out the community in such ways with SUD and mental health. And then, so now I'm actually coming to you all to say, I'm actually looking to help more than SUD and mental health. It's, for the entire incarcerated population as well, and for the best of the community. With that being said, I do want to make sure, I know we're talking about this more, and you also see a flyer in the back there. Believe it or not, Brown turns 5 years old this month. We want to invite you all out to our little birthday bash that we're having on the 22nd. And also invite you, we're going to do a very exclusive jail tour of this program in action. So if y'all would like to see that, we're going to meet 9:30 at the jail.
Okay.
If y'all want to see how this program's actually working as well.
I'll be in town.
So if we were to pass this, really we'd just be passing it to the council. And we could authorize ARP or however they want to do it. And then, but it's out of our hands at that point. Is that correct?
It would be up to you all, whether it's a part of what you
It's-
would approve as an ARPA expenditure.
It's like
and it would
everything
go
else
to
we
council.
send for ARPA, they're not gonna pass it, so.
And I'm willing to try. I mean, I know you guys work hard at this, and it sounds like all the way to the governor's office, they're wanting to help, so.
Randy, well, I got a problem with that. Even though I'm the same party he is, I got a problem with starting something and don't fund it, so. You got any questions, comments?
Me personally, I think probably all wait for the funds to come from that opioid settlement, the city, some ARPA funds. Because we have to use that first, and you guys are doing a good job, so.
Well,
How far are we out on that? Anybody know?
I don't,
I'm trying to find it right now, but.
anyway, I don't wanna tell you no, but I don't wanna tell you yes, and I wanna look at it more. So I'm gonna entertain us tabling it till our next meeting at least, so that we can see what, I'd like to talk to some people and find out more about it. And I know you're the two that probably know more about it than anybody else, but I'd like to talk to some other individuals and get a different perspective. So,
Would you want me to come back in the next meeting if there's any questions?
That's what I was gonna ask, would be at the next meeting. Yeah.
but I will say this, just like Randy said, that
Estimate.
the settlement, I think we ended up,
100 and something thousand, wasn't it?
No,
The
but it
first
was-
hit.
it was 2.6 million, I think, or something like that, we got out of the settlement, but it's again, there is a one-time lump sum, then it breaks down into 18-year, payments.
And plus, they told us how we had to spend a lot of that money.
Some of
It
it-
wasn't like we had
Some
discretion.
of it is discretionary, some of it's,
Yeah.
you have to spend it in a certain area, so it's, I guess they call it restricted and unrestricted, so. But my thing is, as Randy said, those funds are gonna go to, you know, your like, I guess, organizations, because they have to. I mean, and rightly so technically, because that's the population that was affected by the settlement, or the suit in the first place, so.
Potentially, you're talking like you could get a lot more than 50,000.
Yeah, I mean, I will be
From
honest,
that.
I'll say this and I'll be honest. The only thing that concerns me, is what we're doing in the meantime.
Right.
Because, you know, one thing is, you know, as a nonprofit, you know, I don't wanna come and, of course, I think that there should always be buy-in from local municipalities and your county municipalities, I mean, it's our community, right? But I don't want to hinder, the individuals that are getting out seeking help, to not be able to give them what's needed with that wraparound, because that's, for so long, that's always been the issues with entities, right, is the gap in services. And so I'm trying to plug this gap, to the best of my ability.
Sorry about that.
No, that's
Pretty interesting to tell 'em.
That's pretty interesting to tell 'em.
Is there a dance?
Turn it off, John.
I either wanna go to Circus or eat an ice cream right now, I don't know which.
I'm actually looking at you a little bit different than I ever have before.
I think maybe they'll tell us.
Right.
Take that, all right.
But you know, but that is my concern, right? I just don't want to, you know, and I know that, you know, that was released, and I know that, I wanna say they sent it out within the last week and a half about how that was getting broken down.
It's actually
That
done
was
longer
more
ago.
ago, yeah, it was like
Yeah.
a month ago.
Yeah.
It's,
But that's my concern, right? And so, you know, I know that, you know, everybody comes in here and asks for, ARPA money and all that stuff. Once again, I'm also trying to continue the conversation we had a year ago about what we can do to help our population. And our population's still suffering. They've been suffering. And I think that I'm here, I don't wanna be the voice for the population, but sometimes we have to advocate to be the voice until they can get a voice. And so I'm here, to sit with you all to try and figure something out. And so if you want us to come back, in 2 weeks to answer any other questions, I'm willing to do that. You know, I'm not, saying no by any means, right? I just want you to know that, you know, this is something that, you know, we are running this program right now. And we would like your all support.
I think you got a good program going here, so we'll just, I reckon we gotta wait.
You guys are doing a great job.
Appreciate that.
I just, right now, we have a lot of balls in the air, you know, that we need to shore up in our own yard, I guess.
This is your yard too, right? You know, I mean, this has been, you know, the conversation we've been having, I mean, we've been having this conversation for a while. And, you know, like I said, I mean, this is, I think, not only does that show the buy-in from the community, but also gives us the help that's needed, so. If you want me to come back, I mean, I have no problem, I can come back in 2 weeks. Hopefully she'll spell my name right next time.
Well,
Yeah.
Maybe.
you probably weren't around here, but there
She's
used to
like
be,
maybe.
there used to be a restaurant at Henderville exit.
Yeah, we're actually related. And then with the E, we just dropped the E.
But they had really good candy there.
They really did.
It's
The
a
peppermint
positive
candy was
thing.
amazing.
Yeah, it's a positive thing.
Those are
It's not-
pecans.
Yeah.
It's not a slight, believe me.
But anyway, yes, let's table it till our next meeting, and if you wanna come back.
Is there, let me ask you this question. Because this has happened in Howard County, this has happened in 3 other counties where the municipalities stepped up. Would it be beneficial or helpful if I had any of those representatives come to this conversation?
Would
Not in my
be.
opinion.
No? Okay, I'm just trying to say, well, you're asking for more information on what it looks like. That's why I didn't know if you wanted other
Honestly, I'm comfortable working with you.
Yeah.
I think you're doing a great job. That's-
Okay, just want to know if anything I can do to help.
If,
Yeah.
I'll get with you.
if I was to vote yes, nobody would convince me more than you.
Okay.
How's that?
What was he saying?
I'm not even gonna go.
All right.
Thank you.
Between his ring and his comment, I'm worried. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
Appreciate you guys.
Nancy?
I'll come with you.
So that was actually a wonderful leeway. They do amazing work for us to come and ask for an ask, to ask, but not for money. So there we go. I only brought these, and we'll see them if you can pass them down. We are here to ask your permission to go to the county offices and ask them to give to the United Way.
Is there something with our payroll that they can do a direct
Yes.
thing from there?
We
'Cause I know when
did,
I know at UPS, I always did that, so.
yeah.
What is it, minimum 15?
15, is that what? We
Yes.
have to have a minimum of
Yes,
15?
in order for it to be,
Processed.
yeah, we really need at least 15 participants for it to even be, I wanna
That's
say
per-
worth our time,
is that
because
per-
it's worth a lot, don't get me,
Exactly.
I'm
Is
not
that per
sliding
pay
that.
cycle?
I think it's just people.
Yeah, just people
Just people
on
signed
the,
up.
so we can, right,
Oh, so
yeah, cause we
out
have
of
to.
200 employees, if you come up $15, then you can process
We'll
it?
process it through
Yes.
payroll.
I think that,
And especially
That's
since
the
we were
same
talking
form I
about
just fill
the,
out.
yeah.
Well,
it is.
3 of your department heads are on your board.
Exactly. 3 board members are on the board, so we've got that much going on. But it was really interesting listening to them about the jail and the size. And, the Dolly Parton Imagination Library program that we do, is to show, if you start here, you don't have them in there. So the more we can invest in our community, hopefully, the better off that will be. So our ask is just that you allow us to go into the offices and give them these 2 things and I'll ask them to give.
by
Yeah.
consensus, I think I'm fine with that.
Me too.
So,
Okay.
there you have
All
it.
right, thank y'all very
All right,
much. It was
thank
easy
you.
peasy.
Yes.
All right.
Just
Well, that was easy.
contact my office for scheduling, and if you've got post flyers, if you need me to
Yes.
send out an email to the employees, I mean, we'll help support you.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you very
In
much,
that
Jessica.
capacity.
I will get with you immediately.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, Nancy. All right. Do you guys want to do food ordinance first?
Do whatever you want.
Let's see that.
We already got that.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Since you're
This is it here, isn't it?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
do we go back and revisit restaurants to check their health and how they're?
We do
handling
inspections.
sanitation?
Yeah. We don't have like a set time, like we don't do like Cracker Barrel every February or every whatever. Schools are pretty on schedule. The jail's pretty on a pretty good schedule. Anytime we get a complaint, we always go out and check complaints. But we try to hit them all every year.
That's a public record, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if
Also have a
anybody,
question. 'Cause I know
newspapers or anybody wanted to, they
Yep.
could, yeah.
the State of Kentucky puts it on their doors, I mean, do we?
The letter
does-
system.
Does Indiana not do that?
So what I've been told about the letter system is that it's subjective. So like Indiana doesn't have its own like master scale. So then each food inspector at a county is kind of like, it's their subjective. So like if you have so many, serious,
issues.
Yeah, serious issues, I can't think of the word that I'm looking for, but, so there's not like a master list that
Violations.
Indiana, yes. No, there's a word that I'm thinking of, but it'll come to me in a minute. But Indiana doesn't have like a master list, so then each county would just be at its own discretion to make its own, like, letter
Okay.
system.
And it
We
may-
could do that, I
Maybe
mean.
Jefferson County does that.
It's
Most
something
counties in
I
Louisville use it.
Mhm.
think it's a good idea, but I would actually like to talk to some restaurant owners and see what they.
I think,
Yeah,
I
Or at
think
least
that's a,
chamber or somebody,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's like a lot of things. I think it's like exactly what you just said, it's perception.
mhm,
So your inspector, it's his perception of what
Right.
is, you know, I guess, industry.
right, and I mean, there's
Wow.
certain things, like, obviously, like, you know, like where your raw meat's stored, like, certain
Mhm.
way things are labeled and things like that, but, as far as like how many serious violations would that qualify as an A, how many, you know, would be a B, like that would be, like the scale would be county to county.
I don't want to throw, well, and I kind of piggybacking off what Randy's asking is that there was a, I guess I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna say the restaurant name, but there was a national news organization that put out that there was a tainted lettuce or something in
Like
Indiana.
salmonella issue,
In Kentucky, there was like 3 or 4 states.
yeah,
And, I mean, in those situations, do we go out and check our restaurants with that franchise?
so
And make
we don't
sure
like
that-
test the food,
Or do we just wait till somebody gets sick?
I mean, in a non-outbreak situation, that's kind of what happens. Like, if you get so many complaints on a restaurant where, like, several people from different households complain they ate at a restaurant, you know, on a certain day, and they've all had illnesses that would be compatible to E. coli or something like that, then we would kind of intervene. But as far as, like,
So they're
lettuce
gonna-
that's bad that they purchase, like, their purchaser should be notifying them
So they're
that.
gonna self-regulate their self.
Right, just like if they have an employee that's sick that is compatible with hepatitis A, you can't work if you have hepatitis A because that can be transmitted through food. So they have to self-regulate their employees that, you know, if they're vomiting and having other symptoms, like they shouldn't be working.
Okay, well, I guess the question was is that if, for instance, there was this national news story and said
Yeah,
these areas are affected, we aren't going to be proactive and go to those places and go, hey,
we're not gonna go check their
Yeah.
lot numbers of their lettuce.
okay,
Yeah,
that's where
that would be their responsibility to do that.
okay.
But if we get, you
After
know,
we,
5 phone calls.
after we get sick, then you'll get involved.
Yeah.
By the time that happens, I'll be over it.
So what do you do with the, okay, so let's say you go to restaurant C,
Mhm,
and restaurant C
mhm,
is very unclean.
mhm.
What happens with that?
So when you say like unclean, like just because there's obviously like visible violations that can be issued, but then there's also things that isn't necessarily like a serious violation. And there's some things that are serious violations that you wouldn't think would be a serious violation. So in the Indiana rule, there's certain things that they have a certain amount of time to fix. So some of those things are immediately, like especially things when like involve like raw food that could potentially lead to illnesses, like those have to be fixed immediately. Other things, there's certain time frames where they can just fix them. You know, we give them a week.
Okay, once you give that information to them,
Mm-hmm.
what happens to the information? Is it public?
Yeah, so
Is
then
it
we
made
have an
public?
inspection sheet, and it's a state form that we have, and we keep public record of that. So anyone can walk in, you could walk into our office tomorrow and say, I wanna see all 2022 food inspections, and we have to give that to you. I don't know the time, exactly, I don't know the time limit of that. I would assume as soon as possible, but,
If it's a verbal request or a written request, it changes the time frame for response, but then it's also like the response is basically just, we have the record, we will give it to you, or we don't have the record,
Right.
or we can't give the record
Right.
to you. And then it just sets a reasonable time after those times have elapsed, you shall comply with the statutory requirements, and can either designate specifically why you can't turn over something, or turn
Yeah.
over the documents.
right.
So we cannot make it public. other than somebody coming and asking?
I mean, we could, like, are you asking me like put it in the paper or something?
Don't you have websites?
We do have the county website, yeah.
Could that not be published on the county website?
I could figure out a way to get that published on there, yeah. I could,
I want, you know, as a service
yeah.
to people in Scott County, I think they, you know, if you go in and somebody's serving burgers off the floor of the restaurant.
Well, I don't think that's happening,
They-
but yeah.
Or
Right, but I'm
commission.
saying, you know,
Yeah.
it would be good to publish that for people to know.
It's
So just
closed, I
publish-
can say it.
Publish the inspections online.
Yeah.
Okay. I can look into that. Yeah.
So what's this food
Critical and
ordinance?
non-critical, that's the word I was looking for. Some offenses are critical, which you have to address immediately, and some of them are
Well,
non-critical.
if
That's
you're-
what the code
If
says.
I
your
see
food's
the paper
stored in the
and
cooler and the
track.
cooler's not running, then that's critical.
Right, yeah. There's, and like I said, you'd be surprised at some of them that are critical and some of them that are non-critical, so. Yeah, we
So is
can work
this
on
a
that.
renewal of a,
So, what I wanna do is, we haven't updated this ordinance since 2008. And so there's no late fee in there. And so when it goes back to like every year that restaurants, have to have a permit with us, sometimes they are not incentivized to get that in on time. So I'm hoping, and this is a 60-day leeway, so they have to have payment to us by February 1st. And if they don't have it to us by the end of March, then starting April 1st, it's a $50 late fee, and then it's $50 at the first of every month after that. So, and then we added a part in that we kind of do already, but just to make it kosher. If someone gets a permit by December 1st, so if like somebody comes in, a new restaurant opens on December 1st, we're not gonna make them get a new permit on February 1st. We're gonna grandfather them in, basically.
I have a question.
So I highlighted all the changes for you guys too. Yes.
I'm kind of skimming through this, trying to look for a certain thing here. Are
I have.
food trucks, food vendors,
Those
Portable.
are temporary or mobile, depending on,
so do they have to have a permit as well?
yes. Mhm.
So we check them out, and make sure that they're,
Yes, like all the
Suitable.
vendors at the fair, we do all those.
yeah.
A lot of them do an annual permit, so they'll get their inspection and then they just have a permit for the whole year, so they could set up at Old Settlers or the fair or
Yeah, that's what I was.
Frolic or whatever. And then I think Scottsburg City has its own ordinance, which is separate from ours, that they have to comply with too for mobile food trucks. But it includes, one of those things is having a permit with us.
Yeah.
So, I know that was a big thing whenever COVID
Have you
happened.
looked at this site?
So they have jurisdiction over the restaurants? Or
No,
does that
they just
fall under
had, their ordinance is about like where mobile food trucks can set up.
Is this something you can pass
Okay.
with first reading or
So
something?
we would
It
still
was
do the
advertised.
inspection?
Yeah, we are the only ones that can issue
I mean, it's
a
an
retail
ordinance,
food
so
establishment
normally
permit.
it takes two separate meetings.
And you have to
once
advertise it as
passes
well?
And then we advertised it.
But they did advertise it.
We did
right?
advertise
So,
it.
I mean, whether it would pass, that's
Second.
up to you guys. But, the only changes that I think were made were changes to the fee schedule, right?
Yep, so we added the $50 late fee after 60 days, and then it you get $50 added on the first of every month until the,
The fees has to be relative to the administrative, basically, requirements of managing the
Mhm.
issuance of the permits and managing, kind of making sure that those happen. I think the late fees deal with basically the additional administrative costs associated with trying to follow up
Mhm.
with these individuals on a monthly basis and make sure that at some point they're going to comply with the terms of the ordinance.
What's your guys' pleasure?
Oh, is this your way of paying for your driveway?
No, I have that money already.
Well, that's,
It's supposed to
where
be
does
a,
the $50 fee go to?
kind of a neutral basis.
Like, we
right?
are
You're
supposed to
not
be making
You're
revenue.
not supposed to be making revenue.
Profit,
off
yeah.
this. You're supposed to be breaking even.
So that the fee and the late fees, is there a fund set up for that already, or?
So the fees go into my 1159 health fund,
Okay.
and so the late fees would also just go into those. So it wouldn't be any special fund or anything.
Okay.
Because this is what happens, is that when somebody doesn't have a permit, we use our postage to continue to send the form that they have to fill out. and then we try to contact them, and then sometimes that's not the same people that it was last year, so then we're having to go on site several times, and sometimes there's people there who aren't the people that you need to speak to, and then you have to go back. And it can just, sometimes if there's just some incentive, and obviously, like Zach said, it's not a large fee, but I think it takes up, it's even for the amount of effort that we have to put in for it.
So I'm seeing here you're gonna inspect every restaurant every 3 months?
So what the ordinance says, we
Section
can,
6.
up to, I think that's the minimum.
I mean, that's not a absolute if you ever.
Right.
That's,
That's the minimum, like, if we wanted to inspect restaurants up to every 3 months, that we could do that, we reserve the right to do that.
okay.
Does it say may or shall? We gotta go
At
back to
least
that.
once each 3 months, health officer shall inspect. Each food establishment for permit is required.
Mhm.
So that sounds to me like you gotta do it at least once every 3 months.
We have to inspect before we issue a new permit to a new business, is that what you're asking? Which section are you reading?
Section 6A, frequency of inspection.
I don't know, Zach, how do you read it?
Because earlier you said you only have to inspect
We
once a
don't
year.
have to inspect at all, I don't think
At least
technically.
once each 3 months, the health officer shall inspect each food service establishment for which a permit is required in the provision.
I mean, yeah, if we make this, if we pass this, that's gotta be done, right?
Correct.
So I'm just saying, is this
So
what
if
you
this
want?
That's not being done, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, so should we change this a little bit before we vote on
We
it?
can.
Well, I know we can.
This, like I said, the only thing I added.
I don't wanna
was
pass
concerned
something that's
about-
not gonna be done.
Well, I think to the point, there's already an existing ordinance that mirrors this language, correct?
The only thing that I changed from the ordinance from 2008 was the highlighted sections. So we added in the
This has
late
been
fees.
In effect for 14 years.
So we haven't done it.
Correct.
So I'm just asking the question, should we get this altered a little bit before we pass something?
What's your thoughts, Zach?
Well,
I mean, it
I
seems to
mean-
me
I guess
like
I take
so
that
you're
as
looking
like,
at, you're looking at section 6.
6
right?
frequency at number A there.
Well, so go to section 7 real quick.
7, that overrides
Obviously,
section
this is
6.
Temporary food service establishments in this section, but at least once in each 24
Yeah.
hour period.
But that's just temporary.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Section
mobile.
6
and-
is inspection of food
I
service
mean,
establishment.
you could alter that section if you wanted to.
Well, it seems to me like they need to tell us what they need to be doing. If you really can't do it in 3 months.
I mean, so we have one food inspector who also does
Yeah.
all of your septic. So like right
Yeah.
now, whenever it's at the height of
Yeah,
septic season, like that's not, there's no.
I'm with you, Michelle. I don't wanna pass something that's just not gonna work.
I guess I interpret that as like we reserve the right to inspect someone once every 3 months, but
Well, that ain't what I'm reading. I'm saying it says,
Shall.
it's got the
I
word
think I'm
shall,
gonna-
so,
I'm gonna agree with John.
yeah.
It tells you pretty much at least once each 3 months, so.
And maybe that's a good idea, but if we just physically don't have the people to do it, we
Right.
need to adjust this a little bit.
so should we change that to May?
Well,
May instead?
But then you're saying you shall, or you may inspect every 3 months. You might as well put may inspect once a year.
here's just my thoughts. I think this is your profession, well, you guys should come back to us. I mean, I'm all for passing this, but not that.
Okay.
I'd like for you to come back in 2 weeks and give us what you think ought to be done.
Okay. What's our
Am I-
advertising again on that?
It's gonna cost us
No.
another
Or you could take,
$20.
yeah, whether you just adopt an ordinance is
Yeah.
completely your own.
Well, if we're gonna adopt it, we need to enforce it. If we can't enforce it, we need to alter it.
Okay.
Well, I could see where you could get in trouble, or we could get in trouble, I guess, if we don't go.
Somebody gets,
If we don't go every 3 months someplace,
Yeah.
and somebody gets sick, and they go, well,
Mhm.
you should've had an inspection. Well, no, we didn't. Well, it's in your ordinance that you
Yeah.
should have, or not.
I think you could also pass it with changes. So
We don't have to
if
re-advertise.
we're talking about minor,
And it's not more restrictive than what we
Yeah,
advertise, it's
correction.
less restrictive, and that's a plus. Does that make sense, Zach?
yeah, which is why you do readings. I mean, this is the whole purpose too, for
so we could pass it for the first reading.
correct.
with changes.
And then you could come back to us
With
and
the
we'd have the,
altered ordinance and pass
Okay,
that
well, that
last
would be
version.
So do you have to re-advertise the
Because
verbiage?
it's less restrictive than the one I advertised, so we're good there.
Alright.
I
So
would
I
be
guess
okay.
what's your preference? Is it once every 6 months?
What I would probably do is go look at other counties near us, in similar size and employees and see what theirs says and kind of gather
I would be
something
good
from there.
with that, yeah.
Alright, I'll entertain a motion to pass, on a first reading or have a first reading of the food service established ordinance. Ordinance number 2022-009 with the exception that there's going to be a change with, section 6, section A, to read differently than it does. So,
Yeah. I'll make that motion.
John makes the motion, Randy?
Yeah, I'm gonna hold off until I get to read what the changes are.
Okay.
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 So, well, I'm gonna go ahead and, cause it'll go to the second reading, we can cancel it the second reading,
Yeah.
so.
Yes.
I'll vote to move it to the next reading and see what the verbiage says.
So I can do that.
Yeah,
Oh.
we can vote no the next time
Right.
and it'll be done.
It doesn't make it effective today.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
so you're gonna change your,
I'll take it.
And I will try to get that
so
to
we're
you
gonna all three
guys.
vote yes.
I just wanna read it, so.
Yeah.
And I'll try to get the revised version to you guys as soon as I
Alright.
can, so you can have that in advance.
What else, Shannon?
Parking lots. So I know Kevin emailed you guys his quote. Here's one that Randy helped me get from All Star. The first page on this one is my part, and then the second one that he labeled as the sheriff is technically commissioner. Oh, sorry, will you pass one out to everybody?
Oh,
That's
this-
All Star.
okay.
Yeah, that's all the same thing. And then there's another one from B&B for the health department. Pass that down for me. And then
Thank you.
these were sealed. I didn't want to open them,
No, it's not.
so you can open that if you want to.
And if I remember right, you said you had the money to pay for it.
Yep, and I walked, well, my part, I do,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I walked through with, all these individuals and told them the exact same thing, what I'm big, striping, what I want, what areas health department, what areas commissioners. So, it should be as close to apples to
Are
apples.
these the
as-
same thing?
No, I think that's, somebody else. I think that's Salyers.
No, I'm actually seeing two, is that correct?
Yeah, so the first page on All-Star, see where it says Scott County Health Department, that's my area, that's what I would
Okay.
pay.
So these are,
Second one, sheriff, would be you guys. So you call it
So
sheriff instead of
we're gonna pay the
commissioners.
sheriff parking lot too, is that
He called that,
the back side?
The back side, the
Okay,
sheriff's
okay, I'm
part.
with you, okay,
Yeah.
all right. So anyway, we have two estimates.
and then,
Why would-
Kevin
oh,
Hall. Is that Salyers?
yeah,
Okay.
so
I thought
one's
that's what it
for one part, the other one's for the other part.
Yes.
Sounds like.
Yeah, because we talked about how like I would pay for my part, which is like the 2 bays, draw a horizontal line and everything towards the highway, and then if you guys wanted to pay for the rest of it, that would come from somewhere in your pocket.
So each vendor quoted both sections of the parking lot.
Yeah, everyone except B&B, they just did ours, and he said he could get me another estimate if I wanted it, but that's, I guess, up to you guys. I asked him for it, he just didn't provide it.
So the second page here is for,
See where it says highlighted the sheriff's part, and then mine says health department? You guys are the sheriff on that All-Star one.
alright, I'm gonna read these, so. I'm gonna read the first one, it's from the health department, actually, it's from the highway department, for them sealing, and this is split in two different ways, splitting the health department and I guess the remainder of the parking lot, which technically we own, I guess. Or we should be responsible for, I guess, but looks like, Kevin's part for sealing, looks like it's based on base hour time of time and a half plus employees' cost. Looks like his cost for you on the health department side is $47.85. That's $4,785. And then the remainder of the parking blacktop area out there is $3,859. So I'm looking at Sawyer's seal coating and construction here. Looks like, and I'm gonna read quote 2 first because I believe quote 2 is the front part, and it's $6,914. And I guess the back part is $9,477.
I would bet that was Switch.
I think it's switched, you're right.
'Cause they're-
After I looked at the other quote up here, so
Is that an employee of the county?
that's his,
Kevin Sawyer's, yeah.
I'm throwing that out for him,
Yeah.
is that an issue?
I asked Zach about that.
it's,
What's the question?
Remember, one of the independent contractors is also an employee of the county, and so,
Yeah, I don't think that, I think he has to fill out, did he fill out all the,
I told him that there was there was some disclosures that he would need to ask Tammy about.
I'm not for sure. I guess it would be, we could do like a contract disclosure, so we could put it on file with the clerk's office. That he does business with the county and is an employee, but it would have to be like engaged through a business type. Like he benefits from his business relationship with the county. Does that make sense?
I think so, but I don't.
I'm gonna clarify this again. Quote 1 on this, Sawyer seal coating and construction is the part for the, health department is $9,477, and the remainder, which is county property, is $6,914. And then with certified DBE,
It's All-Star Paving.
All-Star Paving Incorporated, the health department side, with their quote is $17,529.36. I will say this because I'm looking at this, in the county's quote here or estimate, they don't have any striping involved in their bid. But this one, for the health department is $17,529.36. That includes striping. And then on the remainder of the parking lot is $11,179.20. And I think that's it, isn't it?
B&B, this one. That one says job
So
estimate.
Also, paving, didn't give you anything for chip seal or anything else, or?
He did not.
Says
He-
clean and crack fills.
The thing that, so my conversations with all of them, All-Star, his opinion was that we needed to seal all the cracks in the pavement, even ones like way far out that we don't, like the public really don't use, because he said water could get in there and cause our pavement to kind of bust even after you spend all this money on it. That made sense. B&B, when I talked to him, he felt more comfortable just sealing the cracks, like kind of in the like the front area where you would see it the most, because it could get really pricey, I think, as you can tell from All-Star, if you seal every single crack. But basically they all had the same consensus of, it's a big parking lot, nothing's been done to it in probably 10 plus years. It's a lot of cleanup, a lot of prep work. So,
And this last one here, what is it, B&B?
B&B,
B&B asphalt seal coat. And it looks like they just priced the whole thing and also added 250 pounds of rubber on large portion of cracks striped in the front half for $14,850. So, there you have it. 1, 2, 3, 3 bids, and then the county
3 quotes.
3 quotes, and then the county's quote.
I'm back with you now on this Salyers thing, because that would be the county paying for the employee to do the
Mhm.
work at time and a
That's
half.
what-
So you guys were comparing what it would take to use our county equipment and
I
pay
don't
the
think
employee.
that's what it was.
No.
He has.
He's a standalone
DBA under a
Yeah.
separate business, but it's a DBA, I mean,
Yeah,
I
that's,
think that there's some requirements to file,
Yeah, that,
some disclosures.
yeah,
yes.
Sure, that makes sense.
The alternative, I thought what we discussed is the alternative is, you know, there's penalties associated for that person.
I told him that he would need to check with Tammy about disclosures.
There needs to be a disclosure of business, of a county relationship
Yeah,
that hasn't
beyond
been done yet.
employment.
right,
Yeah,
That hadn't been done yet, is that correct?
and unless you hire him, he wouldn't need to do that.
okay.
Yeah,
Got you.
yeah.
We
And,
take this under advisement.
We could.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing we're up against is like the weather, but
yeah,
obviously this isn't my expertise, it's your guys' property at the end of the day.
yeah.
I'm okay with paying with either, any of those.
So you have in your budget for your portion, no matter what.
Correct.
Okay. All
But
right.
he could go ahead and file it, he wouldn't have to wait, isn't that correct?
He wouldn't want to unless he had a relationship with the county. He wouldn't
Well-
want to disclose something he didn't have.
And my concern is somebody we hire and then they don't do it.
No, if
I would think he would, but.
if he becomes a vendor
Mhm.
and an employee, it's not like he's selling T-shirts to the county, which is totally off his. He
Okay.
could be able to do this because he does this work at the highway.
Let's
Do you see what I'm
look at it
saying?
this way. If we
Yeah.
had another employee that worked at the highway department that was mowing for the health department properties that they said, hey, we need to go up there and clean this property up. How do we handle that?
Well, I think that's what she was saying, they were paid time and a half.
No.
Oh,
It was a separate, he had a separate business as well.
But there should have been at that time something filed with the clerk's office.
That's
as
where
well.
I'm saying that,
Yeah, it
And I have
can-
no
it
idea if
can
that was done or
happen.
not, that
Because-
arrangement was made.
I know, if you know what I'm talking
Yes,
about.
I do, mhm.
We've had people that have
Yeah.
side businesses that aren't really related to their
When he used
job.
to go out
Right.
Because
there
they
for,
can do T-shirts, they can do
off the
certain
clock.
things, and they just wanna do that
Oh, he's
for
working for
their,
the
you know,
county.
their
Okay.
department.
but he was off the clock at the
Yeah.
county, he was
But-
doing all
It was
side
not
jobs.
paid time.
Yes, he
It
was
was
very
kind of
different.
Got you.
Yeah, and you would you would have an invoice or a
I mean, I don't have a problem with the
this.
guy owning
Right.
the business and saying, hey, why I'm not working, or if I have
Right.
employees that can do this, why I'm not working.
Right,
Or why I am working, then, I mean, they should have an opportunity to do business with the county as
Sure.
well.
But if
It's
it's
just a
his
legal
business,
issue, we gotta make sure we do it right.
he has to file the disclosure whether he does the work or not.
Right.
Because he's
That is not on us to
benefiting from
file.
that business, right?
Okay.
So if you guys go with anybody that's an employee on anything for an outside the county hours work, they have to file that conflict of interest statement with the clerk's office. That has to be done.
What else you got?
So we gonna, I'm open.
No, it's
Oh,
fine,
we're
yeah, we
gonna-
didn't make a
2
motion.
more weeks?
Thank you.
Yeah, we're just gonna,
Table it.
Okay,
whether advise it or whatever.
I'm good with that.
Making a lot of progress tonight. Health board. That was tabled from last time.
Do what?
I said the health board position, that was tabled from last time.
And
Well, I see you-
closed the
I
letter
see,
that somebody sent.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
one of the list, the school nurse from Austin, Dina, she wrote you guys a letter.
So she wants the job.
Yes.
Well, everybody on your list that you gave us has been contacted and asked if they want to participate on this board, correct?
So Dr. Henefeld has, resigned his name, and I told Jeff,
that happened after the list was submitted.
So he
so
what now?
he doesn't want to be considered anymore. But everybody else, yes. So the 4.
Well, that throws a wrench in, because that's who I was going to.
Of course.
You okay with this person, or you gotta, you don't,
I mean,
you're
it's-
not really giving a preference?
I've done my due diligence, I think.
You have.
I'm gonna ask to table it again, because, again, I didn't know that Dr. Honeyfield was not.
Yeah, and, yeah.
'Cause that was who I was
Sure.
leaning towards.
Do you want me to find a replacement name in the meantime?
Is there a doctor that'd be interested?
There's not a lot of options left. Cause we have Dr. Busey on there and his wife, I think that'd be a potential
I got a
conflict of
neighbor.
interest. I could ask him, yeah. But I don't know if he's probably a registered Democrat, would be my guess.
I would venture to say he's not.
Okay. Okay, I'll check.
If it does, it would surprise me.
Dr. Avery?
Yes.
Okay, I'll check.
I'm not saying, I don't know. his
I don't know
politics,
either.
but
I guess I just.
Have my idle conversations with him.
Okay.
like,
And you know what? It's weird because like some people you talk to, they think that they're registered one way, and then if they
We'll say
voted
this.
with
I'm gonna
whenever I
bring-
get with the clerk.
We'll
There's
bring
not
it.
like- And there's not like a formal registration.
Right.
It has to do with.
It's how they voted in the last
Let me find my paper here.
two.
Past election, huh?
Well, you have to have two.
You also have to be one or the other.
I'm gonna throw this
Yeah, you
out
can't be an
We
independent.
do not recognize.
Because you
the
got-
city does not recognize.
You have 3 Democrats,
Yes.
2 Republicans, and
Yes.
2 independents.
So the
You
independent,
cannot have an independent on this board.
they haven't voted in a primary.
That you have to have voter history. You either have to go to the head of the Democrat Party
You could.
or or go to the
Okay.
head of the
Right.
Republican
Yeah.
Party and determine if they were a Republican or a Democrat.
Okay.
You cannot have a independent.
So on my health roster that I submit to the State Board of Health, and it may have it on here. So then you just have like other. It's like you have to check. And so for those, I just put other because they've
think-
never voted in a
I know
primary.
he's right on that. It was the same way at the sheriff's office, and it can be legal issues later
Well, technically,
if we say there's something and they're not.
if you know that these guys, and again, I don't know how these guys vote, because I know one of them, and I know both of them, but I don't know if they're politics.
And they could have that, whenever I checked that, this was not this time, but if there was, like, it was whenever Missy was clerk, so however long ago that was. There was no primary voter history.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I checked it, I was kinda
So I don't
curious.
know,
But you have, and I mean, you have to show a history of how you're gonna vote to be on this board, because otherwise, you know, you
Or
can
you must
stack the board.
I don't know what you want me to do then, cause I don't, like, I've never had this issue, like, this is a new information.
I
to
get
me.
that, and I'm not gonna be.
They just have to.
I understand what you're saying, I just don't know what steps you want me to take.
There is a method by which an individual could, I don't know if it's a strict, like, application to the head of the
Party.
Democratic or Republican
Yeah.
Party, but there's a way for, the chairman of either to declare someone,
So I have to get
whether or
a,
not they voted in the last 3 primaries or not,
Mhm.
a member of one of those.
so I need to get a letter from either Denny or Kenny that says this person is of this
I
party
think
or
this
not?
person has to get a
I
letter.
think they need to get a letter stating, I am not, the state, again, the state doesn't, recognize independence. You're either a Democrat or you're a Republican. And
Okay.
for this board to be structured with, you can't have more than 4 of a certain party,
Yeah.
then,
Who's in power?
these could, and I'm not saying, these could be 2 Republicans, they could be 2 Democrats, and at
Yeah.
that point, you've got 5 Democrats on a board that you're only allowed to have 4.
Right,
So,
well, there's only been one new appointed person.
I get that,
so that's
and
not
I'm
in
not,
here, but-
I'm not saying there's.
I know, I mean, I understand you're trying to be
underhanded.
kosher, I just have never been, this new
I know.
information to me tonight.
Well, it was actually to me too, because when I saw that, I asked somebody and they said,
I know.
they called Indianapolis and Indianapolis said, no.
The merit board's the same way. I know that for a
Yeah.
fact, so.
And we submit
Actually, when a
that,
guy, if
every
we
year.
didn't declare one way or the other, we had to put him off the board.
yeah,
But I mean, it's nothing against these people. I mean,
Yeah.
These 2 individuals.
so what do you want me to do?
I mean, I don't necessarily want you to do anything other than the
Do you-
requirement is that the person, you have 4 from one party.
Okay.
right?
So the ones who have not voted in a primary,
Would need to do whatever they need to do. I mean, I can try and look up the rule.
I just wanna be able to
Zach,
tell.
let me ask you, is the last primary or the last time they voted in a primary?
I think it's the last time they voted on it.
So if they voted sometime in the past, if they've got
Well,
evidence of that.
see, Michelle
they're
told
one more
me
than-
that you have to be consistent, you have to have 2,
It does have, well, I think he's saying like, if they hadn't voted in the last 5, if
Okay.
you count the one that was 6 years ago, yes. I think answered
Okay.
that.
That would
And I don't
make them
remember
one
when
party or
we
the
showed
other.
Correct.
So if they can verify something,
Yeah.
that would cover them. They can be one or the other.
Even if it was 15 years ago. I don't know how far back
I don't
the
know how
system
far
goes,
you go
but.
back.
Well, they'd have to show something.
I was just curious, I just was gonna bring it up.
No, like I said, like you see it here,
The
there's an
more I look-
option for others, so whenever whenever I had Missy pull those and like I had Michelle pull them for these new people, if they're not a Democrat or Republican, then I just figured.
I
I'd
don't
call it to the
necessarily
D.
agree with the law, it's just the law. So,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
no,
Yeah,
I,
sure.
since my candidate or my
Pick.
appointment had bowed out, I'd like to actually table it till the next meeting. I know
that's fine.
the way,
We don't
it's
have
set
any
up is
precedent
that
issues.
Lincoln still serves until his appointment's made, so. Good with that.
So Zach, do I need to get with you offline then to figure out what to do about this?
Yeah. So whenever a law or political subdivision's resolution requires that an appointment to a board be conditioned upon the political affiliation of the appointee or that membership of a board not exceed a stated number of members from the same political party at the time of appointment, one of the following must apply to the appointee. The most recent primary election in Indiana in which the appointee voted was a primary election held by the party with which the appointee claims affiliation. Or two, if the appointee has never voted in a primary election in Indiana, the appointee is certified as a member of that party by the party's county chair for the county in which the appointee resides.
And it's only at the time of the appointee, so like once every 4 years.
At the time of appointment, yes.
So,
Yeah, once they're
So
on the
that's-
board, you can't
that's-
take them
That's
off.
Indiana Code 36-1-8-10. It's
Okay.
board political affiliations of board appointments and vacancies under, Entitled 36
Yeah.
is local government.
so since they're on the board, I just need to do, if one of those positions come up in January,
It's
then that's.
certification by a county chair of a political party is required under subsection B. The certification must be filed with the office of the circuit court clerk not later than the time the appointee's oath of office is filed with the clerk under Indiana Code 5-4-1. County chair's certification, if not filed, the appointment is void.
and I think, you can correct me
You
on
haven't
this,
done that
but I think they can't be holding another county position either, can they, Mr. Attorney?
Wait,
I don't think they can hold two county appointments. So if they're on this, they can't be on something else in the county.
I believe that deals with elected office. Yeah, I think that's the constitutional prohibition on.
Like, I can't have a
dual office
county
holding.
council
I don't know if there's
member.
something similar in terms of appointments, but I could check.
I have the booklet
think
from the
there is.
Attorney General about what things are
Yeah,
considered
there-
lucrative.
there-
Makes it difficult.
You can't be on the
No, I mean, I
Alcohol
wanna do
Beverage
it right, I
Commission and be a
just-
township trustee
So that's
board member.
correct,
Don't
there
worry.
actually is a
I didn't know that
published,
either.
like, attorney general opinion
You open the
for
political
different
party.
types of appointments. And
I was
it's,
like,
but again, that goes back to the constitutional prohibition against dual office holding.
Yeah,
Yes.
So, and some things that you would think would be, maybe aren't. I mean,
Mhm.
I'd have to know specifically what type of appointment.
and I think these are true for all appointments, not just hers.
And it doesn't matter if you're paid or not paid either in a lot of
Yeah.
cases. It's the authority and the power and the influence you exude
In
in
a
these
couple weeks to look
positions.
into it.
Yeah,
Well, it
It's
also has
not
to
that
do with dual,
compensation.
like you're receiving,
dual powers.
yeah.
And again,
dual
I
compensation
just
as well
wanted to make it
sometimes.
clear that it's not anything about the individuals that are declaring to be independent.
Yeah. No, that was,
I don't have any.
there's nothing, that was my doing, because there was.
There's a lot of Ds and a lot of Rs think they're independents.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and they're, but by statute.
Well, there's a lot of Ds, I think there are, and there's a lot of Rs, I think there.
Yeah,
No,
they're-
there's not an order that thinks that.
You, I mean, like, according to like the rule or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe not recently, but when you
What
look
else
it
you
up.
got?
That was it. I think I've been up here long enough.
I got one question.
Okay.
Where are we at on our HIV numbers? And the reason I ask that is that, when we did away with the needle exchange program, I made a statement saying that if the numbers changed to where we thought that we need to know or to change or go back and do something different than what we did, I mean, have the numbers changed and so radically that we're going to other cities and trying to do something?
I mean, we from the health department never thought the numbers were good enough to go away with the program anyways.
So I guess, again, I'm gonna go back to my research that I did a couple of years ago, is that the state does not acknowledge HIV numbers unless it's 5 or more.
For privacy purposes, they usually do not release new cases unless it's over 5. 5 or more, yeah.
So if we're less than 5, you know, the state doesn't even recognize that. So is it a crisis or is it not a crisis?
I mean, that would be what you identify as a crisis, I guess, but like I said, we, from the health department standpoint, never thought the numbers were good enough to go away with the program anyways. I will say our testing is significantly down. I mean, when you have people who are actively using your syringe service program and getting tested every 3 months, and then now we didn't even test 100 people for HIV before June, like, we're really not getting a good picture of what's really happening out there. We get reports from, you know, our clients who are HIV positive already, who are in our care coordination programs, that they're sharing again. So definitely engaging in high risk activities to spread HIV again.
So again, that's a personal decision somebody makes. It's just like somebody getting behind the wheel of a car drinking. They're taking a personal decision to do that. Just as I have preached, and I'm not a preacher, but have preached that the only way this stops is if somebody takes personal responsibility for their own doings and stops. You know, I can't make somebody do something. You can't make somebody do something. If they're not gonna do it, they're not gonna do it. So if a person's gonna go out there and during all the testimony of the needle exchange, people were telling me left and right that you can go to Amazon and buy all the needles you want. Well, if somebody can go to Amazon and buy 100 needles for $10 or whatever, then they told me they can go do that. So why, I mean, so if someone chooses to use the same needle that somebody else is using, that's again a personal responsibility that they're forgoing, I guess. And the other part of that is, you know, I've always thought they were using them anyway, for the fact that if you've got a drug and a needle and you're sitting there with a partner and their partner's using it and they go here, you know, and you're not gonna say, no, wait a minute, I got my own. I mean,
I think there were, but not now.
I don't that.
No, it's fine. You don't really
I
know.
I mean, we don't have-
I'm not getting in a back and forth. I just wanna know, what I wanted to know is that I saw where you went, you know, the health department went to Austin and said there was a crisis. They went to Scottsburg and said there was a crisis. I asked that if
I don't
there's
think
a crisis.
I've never used the word crisis.
All right. That they
I mean,
need
that's a difference.
that they need to have a needle exchange. So I guess, again, when we voted that night, I said if something changes, come back to us. And I'm wondering, did something change?
Nothing's changed in the fact that we still believe that there should be a syringe service program in
I
the
get
county
that.
from the
I
health
get
department standpoint.
Okay,
Um,
I get that.
And just like with any public health issue, if somebody called me about COVID, I've been to school board meetings to talk about COVID before, you know, the law or Indiana code changed where it's up to school boards. Like, the health department represents the whole county as in public health and public health issues. That's why we're at meetings like that.
I get it.
To
I just wanted
represent that.
to make sure that numbers hadn't escalated to the point where, you know.
Have we had 20 cases in a week like we were seeing in the outbreak? No. Are we testing 200 people in a week like we were? No.
So I guess my question would be there, another personal responsibility, that testing's free, isn't it?
Mhm.
If a guy thinks that he's out there using it, why wouldn't he go get tested?
I mean, people do, but it's kind of like if someone's in your face asking you to do something, is it harder to tell them no when they're in your face asking you to do something, or is it easier to tell them no when you're on the phone, or, you know what I mean? Like, they're not in your face, like, asking you about it.
I get that.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
one quick question.
Yeah.
We never ran DNA tests on these needles. That you,
What kind of DNA test would you want to run?
I'm not.
I mean, what would be the point of that?
I'm asking.
What'd be the point of
needles
that?
That you used to get back. did you ever run DNA?
I
tests
do
on
not
any
stick
of
my
them?
hand in boxes that have
Gotcha.
used needles in
So,
them, correct?
what I'm getting at is, so we never ever established 100% proof that they wasn't sharing the needles that we was giving them to begin with.
I don't even think DNA testing would determine that.
That is my point I'm trying to make though.
I don't think that's the point you're trying to make, but.
All right.
Well, I mean, I'm saying, we never could prove that they wasn't sharing the needles we was giving them. So,
My whole point was I wanted to know if something changed, because I know that, you know, you and I have had this conversation, and I just wanted to know if something changed to where we need to know about it, so.
We are, our stance from the health department has not changed. If you guys wanted to grant us the syringe service program tonight, we would be thrilled. But, are we in like I said, so we had 20 positive cases in a week like we were in the height of the outbreak? No.
Okay. All right,
So,
thank you.
thank you
Thank
guys.
you,
I
Michelle.
don't need to, I'm gonna change subject real
Okay.
quick, on the contract for the county employee.
Yeah.
So specifically, I think what I was concerned about was that it falls within, the conflicts of interest provisions for State Board of Accounts. So in order for this individual to, right, a disclosure must be filed, within 15 days after final action on the contract or purchase with the State Board of Accounts and, the clerk of the circuit court in the county where the governmental entity takes final action. It also must be in writing, describe the contract or purchase to be made, describe the pecuniary interest that the servant has in the contract, be affirmed under the penalties of perjury, be submitted to the governmental entity and be accepted in a public meeting before final action of the contract. So that's kind of the, when we talked, we went over the profiteering provisions of Indiana code. And we talked about their criminal penalties associated with
Right. But that's up
violations.
to him, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But my point is that you could not enter into that contract with him unless all these things were done prior to this. So that's my only point.
That's why you're.
Well, we need to clean that up in the future, because I'm sure we live in a small community and a lot of people have side jobs, so, I mean, and we may interact with a potential hiring of a vendor that's, could be a county employee, so.
And public servant, right, is the term used in the profiteering statute. You think of public servant normally as a person who holds an elected or appointed position, right? But the definition in the code includes a person who's authorized to perform an official function on behalf of and is paid by a governmental entity.
And it also has, things that I've read also, it means if it benefits that person's household.
Well, and that benefit
Yes.
actually.
Goes
yes.
directly to him and his
So
household.
that deals
His
with.
wife would be the same
dependents and things.
relationship.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
So it goes out a little farther. You see what I'm saying? If the contract is with his
Would you
wife,
open up?
a disclosure would still need to be filed, correct?
yeah.
Because it benefits his household.
Disclosures are an important piece of probably a lot of contracts in this situation. So my only point on that was that they could not even consider that situation until we had verification that all these things were done. And I don't represent that person.
Right.
I just represent them.
Right.
So,
He
So
probably
it's within 15 days of them awarding him the contract that he has to
no,
file
well, it has
that?
to actually be in an open meeting prior to that.
Oh, interesting.
so it's very clear what you gotta do, go ahead and fix it and then.
It's not, it's not my business.
I mean, I'm not saying it's,
Not my business.
you know.
Okay,
all right,
thank you guys.
thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Come on up, Crash.
Hey,
We'll decide. I'll let you know what about your employee.
Well, we've got it figured out.
You do?
Yep. Well, part of it, you'll have to let me know the main part, but for the time being,
For the
immediate
class.
future, yes. First thing is received this back today. This is just an agreement between, it's the same agreement we've always had, it just has to be renewed every year. It's just our agreement with IV Tech for the paramedic program. If you wanna look at it, you can sign it now, you can sign it next meeting, whenever needs to be done. I just need it back fairly quickly.
Here, I'll let you guys look at this. Go ahead, while they're doing that.
Same stuff, financial stuff, run stuff. August, we finished at 126, just over 126. Training at 23, paramedic at 24, puts us at a grand total of 1,096,557 for the year. We haven't received a deposit for September yet. We'll get that Friday.
Is it runs up or down?
August was high. We were about 12% higher than
Year to date,
average.
though, I mean,
We're up. Well, or we're down. Even with that having up, we're down for the year, but we were up last month. We had 440 runs last month.
So do you have, I mean, I'm just curious, are you, do you have a year-to-date on what we were last year?
To what we were last year?
Yeah,
Not at this point.
okay, that's fine.
I can get that. I mean, I've got it at station. I just don't have it on
Well,
me.
we're normally, at the end of the year.
We were at 5,080 last year.
At the end of the year, that's what I was thinking, around 5,000.
Yeah, we're-
All right, go ahead. Let's back up to this a second.
Yep,
I got a question.
yep.
On your roads, is there any way that you could, give us information of how many runs or overdoses that you're answering to? No.
You can get that from Jeff, probably.
I cannot give that.
He can tell you what gets called in to 911 center, because you've been tracking that, haven't you, Jeff?
I can tell you what calls were put in as an overdose.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking. I'm asking for people's names or nothing.
But
Whether it turned out to be an actual overdose or not, what we established as an overdose, what we was told, I can get you those numbers.
the reason,
Could you start providing that
This is
for
a,
us?
this is a cost.
Monthly basis?
nope, that's just their affiliation.
Thank you.
Do what? The reason I can't is because we list stuff different. So if what you're looking for is for that, if grandma takes too much medication of her propranolol or her whatever, it's going to be listed as an overdose. So you're gonna get highly skewed numbers that you're not,
I understand.
you're not
Being
gonna want them.
accidental.
Yeah, so, or
They won't
you-
be solid numbers, sure.
they're not gonna be accurate for what you're looking for. You're gonna get somebody taking too much Tylenol, or taking too much beta blocker, or taking their prescription
Took
medication.
their heart medicine twice.
Yep,
So will that be the same report that you're going to give us?
typically no,
Okay.
cause his will come out as, I mean, it can, sometimes it does, but there's a whole chest pain and breathing and the stuff that trumps that typically.
I can break it down to, as long as my people are doing it, I can break it down whenever a Narcan, like if PD's on, police are on scene, they say, I gave a Narcan. If it's documented in the CAD that a Narcan was given, I can break those reports down to every time a Narcan was given. So,
So essentially, actually, you could probably do that. How many units of Narcan you use?
Yeah, but it's not gonna be broken down per, I could use 5 units of Narcan on one run though, too.
so yeah, you may get a CAD because grandma took too many Tylenol. But if Narcan was given and we were told that in dispatch and it's documented, you would be able to say, okay, well, there's,
It probably wasn't Tylenol at that point.
yeah. It may help break it down.
And we'll back up. Let's back up to this document, this Scott County EMS Training Institute, and Ivy Tech College, Southern Indiana. It's an agreement for accreditation, so it's something that's a renewal, so. You guys,
I'm for it.
It just says they have the ability to go get their associates in paramedic science, what our program will transfer into their college credits as, and all that.
I'll entertain a motion to sign this.
I'll make a motion, sign.
John makes a motion to sign the agreement with Ivy Tech. Randy?
I'll second it.
Randy seconds it. I'll make that unanimous, so. Thank you. Go ahead now, I'm sorry.
But yeah, we're just shy of 1.1 million, total. And the year-to-date run volume for right now is 3,140. Thank you, sir. Any questions about any of that? And then the second form will break down into, we had a very high number of ALS runs, last month as well. About 50% of our runs were transported via paramedics, so.
I wish Zach was in here, but I'm gonna ask you a question that you and I have had this conversation about.
Okay.
And I'm gonna enlighten these, the other commissioners here. The situation with the hospital asking you to transfer a patient to another hospital or somewhere else, and you say you cannot bill for that. How are we going to, how can we rectify that?
It depends on the reason. Hospital to hospital is less likely because there is a transfer to a typically a higher level of care or services not performed at this facility. The big issue we're having is back to nursing homes, back to home, and then depending on which was an issue for other services for a while, but then we were getting called because those other services have to break. You've got these when, what's the hospital east of here? KDH. KDH's stuff was down for a long time. They were bringing a lot of their CT patients over here to get CTs and all that stuff. Well, there was a few instances that those crew members had to leave and they're like, you need to take them back. No. Like, they're not meeting for us. Like, they met for them because those services weren't performed here. They're no longer meeting for us because it's not our problem. I mean, I hate to be that way, but it's not. But a lot of it is, there is a difference of opinions on meeting medical necessity and not meeting medical necessity, and a difference on opinions of who determines whether it meets medical necessity or not. There is a difference of discharge medical necessity, but there's also a difference of transport medical necessity. And the people that transport are the ones that determine whether there's transport medical necessity. The people that discharge are the ones that determine whether there's discharge medical necessity. And that seems to be the hang-up. There has been improvements. There's been some agreements that have come into play of, you know, if this doesn't meet, we'll cover. And I will say not all of it is the hospital's fault by any means, because there's this third-party company that's involved based out of a different state that are dealing with people that have limited to no medical knowledge that are making determinations through a phone. So that's part of the problem. Then you've got an insurance problem that a lot of people, especially your elderly people who are dealing with these nursing homes, have more than one insurance. But if they have one, they have to check regardless of what the other one is. And it is a process for them. And initially it was like, well, that's not our job. And as the hospital, and it is definitely not our job, because if you want us to transport, you'll do it. But that's gotten a little bit better, but there's still this headway of, you know, well, they've got this, so it'll meet, and that's not necessarily always the case. So it's an education issue, I think, on some, which has gotten better. We've had a Zoom meeting probably a month ago with the hospital that helped a little bit. I provided them a form back in February or March that apparently was by some taken to be just what I came up with the night prior. That has been debunked, so that's good, and we're starting to read that form, so that helps.
So I guess what you're saying is, I mean, and I
There needs to be a
understand
contract, and ultimately, my opinion, there needs to be a contract between the hospital for every transport that we take. If it doesn't get paid, the hospital pays it if they want us to do it. That would be my ultimate goal.
because we live.
If not, they can provide their own ambulance.
Yeah, that's where I'm getting at, because our hospital's within 4 nursing homes. And when
And the,
They
pro-
get-
and the part of it is that it's not the hospital's fault
Well, I'm
that
not
these,
saying
these
that at all.
facilities have vans that they're
Yeah.
not willing to use.
Well,
Now that's on the facility.
it's
But
in
the
the
problem
back of
is the hospital is the one sending them. So now who's gonna pay? The hospital or the receiving facility? So it's, now they're in a battle of, well, you don't have the van to come get us, or it's midnight or whatever. Well, it's not their problem that they don't have adequate staff to come get it either. So that's not the hospital's fault by
But
any
also,
means.
some of these people, some of the patients are bedridden, so they're going home on, back to the nursing home on a stretcher, and
And those ones meet typically. It's the ones that
could walk.
It's the ones that can walk or sit in a wheelchair, you know.
And these
for-
aren't
for a-
emergency, these aren't emergency runs either, are they?
But the problem is, we're not getting paid.
Yeah.
Correct.
And we got people out there making these runs, and I'm not saying it's, oh, it's a service, it is a service, but nursing homes are making money too, so.
Hand over fist.
So we need to figure out how we can get paid to make that transport. We're using our vehicle, using our equipment, we're using our people, and we're using our time and fuel, and we're not getting paid.
And
for
my
some of
biggest
it.
thing is, you know, typically these transports are only a mile to 2 to 3 miles down the road, so it's not super time consuming as far as the actual transport. What's time consuming is the conversation that takes place at the hospital, or waiting on report, or this or that. My concern is getting my crews tied up and stuff like yesterday, or 4 days ago happens, and now I've got a crew tied up with something not emergent.
Yeah.
That should have been a 10 to 15 minute process that we're 35 minutes into. That's my issue. And
Wow.
there's too much conversation, in my opinion, whether they feel like it meets or it doesn't. It's not up to them whether it meets or not. It's ultimately our decision. We're the one making the transport. There's too much conversation with that. And then when they're told it doesn't meet, or the other ones don't qualify, then it's, you know, a battle. I
Yeah.
will say it has gotten significantly better. However, there are still issues.
Okay, well, if we're doing something, if we're turning a tire, then we need to be getting paid for it.
I agree.
So,
And why is it we're not getting paid?
They don't meet medical necessity. So there's a
I
difference.
think my question is do they have to pay us? They don't, apparently.
The
nursing
hospital,
homes.
the nursing homes,
Apparently they don't have to, or we'd be
it
charging
comes back to
them.
the patient, or it comes back that it's a write-off because
Okay.
so the whole part with this third party,
Yeah,
so years for years, there's been Medicare and Medicaid fraud. That's no secret. It's happened for years. I think the year that they did the investigation was, correct me if I'm wrong, like 10.4 million was paid out. That was just fraudulent. I mean, it's not a low number. So they're like, we have to put something in place to help rectify us doing this. Well, what they put in place is a broken system, but that's what they put in place. But you'll either have, and this isn't just Scott, this is hospitals in Indiana. So when I make this next statement, it's not about just our hospital. I want to make that clear. You've got staff that's already inundated in a workload that's now having to take an extra 15 to 20 minutes out of their day to call a company in Atlanta, Georgia, to sit on hold, to describe a patient's condition, plus give them both insurance numbers, to sit on hold, to get a reply of it doesn't meet, or it doesn't qualify, or this one meets, so this one should pay, but if it doesn't, this rider won't cover, or this rider will. It's a complicated process that shouldn't be. But that's the process that's in place. So now you've got nurses in a hospital that are taking 15 to 20 minutes per patient to call this company to figure out whether they have the proper insurance that's gonna meet ambulance transport or not.
well, the other part-
Typically, we have a fairly good idea of whether we think it's gonna meet because we deal with this every day. Some of us have been doing this for 10, 12, 15 years. We have a good idea of what's gonna meet or not. And there's a difference between what the hospital discharges it at and what we document, because they can be like, they're bedridden. If the patient stands and pivots, they are ultimately, at that point, negligible for transport by ambulance if they're going back to a nursing home without any specialized equipment, because they're able to stand into a vehicle or sit in a wheelchair. And that's the hardest thing to explain, that there's this conflict of, well, they didn't do that here, they don't do it all the time, or it's a long distance. I'm sorry, you're not gonna get anybody to justify 0.7 miles is too long to sit in a wheelchair. It's not gonna happen, because they're sitting up for that long for us.
Yeah.
So,
I just wanna know where we're.
it's a
at.
broken system, that's not our fault nor the
We need to
hospitals, but we
we need
both
to try
have
to
to do it.
figure out something.
I agree. I think that anything comes out of that
Whether it's a
hospital that
bait-
doesn't get paid, and I'm not just saying Scott, I think any hospital, anything that comes out of any hospital that doesn't get paid, the hospital should cover for
It
it,
ought to be a base, cause they're gonna get paid anyway, they'll
Correct.
just tack it on somebody else's stuff,
my opinion.
so. Alright, what else you got?
We have a site visit October 6th and 7th for the paramedic program. This is the end-all be-all. There could be one more, but this will determine whether we get put on probation, we get it yanked, or we get the green light of accreditation. This is it.
Site visit by who?
COAMPS,
Okay.
they are the governing body of education programs within the US. They're sending 2 people down. They've got a, 4-page email of stuff that they're requiring. We have a little bit of an issue that has been discussed and we're hopefully gonna rectify, but just letting you know of the situation that we do have a site visit October 6th and 7th.
Okay.
Like I said, this meeting is super important because if it does get yanked, then if you want to continue this, you have to go through the $50,000 application process and all that stuff all over again. So it's not a cheap thing to screw up. As far as the paramedic class is concerned, all the students passed the first module and are continuing on into the second module. So they're doing well in the physical class.
Okay.
Please.
Aren't you special?
I'm having a sugar low.
I know, guy.
Anyway,
So
is that,
that's it on that. One of the things, also, an advanced class starts tomorrow, so I just want to make it known, there has not been a month since I've been here, with the exception of December, that there has not been a class partaking in that training institute. We've been
Yeah.
continuing one or starting one. That's about as full as I can make that training institute, with it being feasible. I mean, I could have classes every day with 1 or 2 people in it, but that's not feasible.
well, I've known a lot of people that've been going through it, so that's a good thing.
Main thing is, I'm here for advice, or recommendations, or ideas, or insert adjective there, of how to get this Kubota fixed. I think it's an asset that we can use definitely in the winter.
Anderson doesn't have it anymore, or what happened?
No, we got it back, we just didn't get it fixed, because I don't have the money,
Oh,
So
to
you got it through that other,
I can't use it through development. Correct?
Correct, because it's not a capital, it's a maintenance issue, and you can't use redevelopment monies for maintenance.
well, it don't work if it,
So I've got a,
You could buy a brand new Kubota, but you can't fix the one
no.
through redevelopment.
I voted against that one.
How much money was it, $4,000?
it's gonna be between 45 and 50, without them taking it out and like taking everything apart. They knew the parts that it definitely needed, but it was like, does it need a rear main seal? Does it need braces and bearings? They don't know those small parts, so they said high-end $5,500.
And you-
Would have been like, that, but mind you, that's back in April, so.
And your question is where you going to get the money?
I would like some ideas of what I can do or what I can, because I think it's ill-advised to have a paperweight give there.
It's a high dollar paperwork.
And my thing is, I believe it was purchased through CARES, correct me if I'm wrong.
It was redevelopment.
Okay, because I say if it was purchased through CARES, it can't
I think
transfer
it was
departments
redevelopment.
until it's
I think
I think you're
2024.
right, cause
Turned it.
the board voted it down,
Okay,
and the council, well, of course, they didn't go to the council, because the commissioners voted it down.
so appropriating it to a different department would be somewhat complicated if it would have been CARES, because
So
it was,
insurance won't take care of it?
no, I mean, it's,
You don't have any money available in your own budget.
I have a maintenance line, but that's for my trucks, and I've still got 4 months of
Tires.
oil and tires to pay for.
You just don't have the money.
I bought one.
Nick, had you checked to see if the insurance will pay for
It was because of,
Neglect.
yes.
it? I
Yeah,
understand.
Have I checked? No.
Well, I think I would ask, and here's the reason why. I've seen an awful lot of, and myself, which have never turned it in on insurance, but I've wrecked razors and everything else, and the dirty turtle and all that stuff, insurance does pay.
I think our
For that.
deductibles,
So,
I don't know about our deductible on that, how that would apply, because we usually have a 10,000.
I don't either, unless we ask the insurance company.
I don't know.
Can't hurt that.
I'll ask Richie.
I just, it's due to negligence, and I just didn't even think that it would be worth,
Probably right, but it can't hurt.
I mean, I agree, it doesn't hurt to ask, but I just,
Yeah, but.
Bar doing
as
that.
As a government identity, I mean, we have the insurance and an employee
right.
did that. It wasn't that it's mine and I had the,
Employees,
I have
yeah.
I have the insurance policy, so maybe they would, I don't know. We'll
I
find
mean,
out.
because the thing
So you're
is,
saying
when it,
$5,500,
Yeah.
let's say.
the thing is, in the winter, and last winter we dealt with this, I know I contacted you a couple times, we were getting to the point where couldn't get out of our landing because either it had iced over and we couldn't stop going into a field, or it's an inconvenience to the highway and the city to come through there because they can't get close enough to my building. I've already have the equipment. And letting it sit back there and rot, I think, is negligent, but I also think what they did was negligent of just putting a bunch of, sodium chloride on it, just letting her eat. I mean,
It's a
it reacts with metal.
It's a transmission,
That's
isn't
not a
it?
question.
It's so the input shafts for the motor and transmission are rusted and pitted to where they don't engage. I mean, you've seen it, it scoots till 7 miles per hour and then she's pegged. That's all she's got. Unless you get a good headwind and downhill,
But
you
the
can reach
tran-
8.
But the transmission is,
It's toast.
alright.
I'm just saying that, I've seen guys with $30,000 Can-Am from the ponds and run it, and that's negligent, but the insurance pays it.
But I would like some advice or guidance on what I can do here, because I don't wanna let that sit there. It's not doing anything. It's not gonna benefit another department how it is. It would really benefit our department if it worked. Because I can now, you've trying to fit, I don't know how much its tow truck weighs, or plow truck weighs. It's not small and it's not light. And getting them to get up closer than 3 foot away from my building, they're not doing it. They can't. And they can't make that small bend, because then I just get a rainbow, but my first bay and my last bay are 15 feet of ice or snow. And, we had a couple scares, and we had one issue that we continued on past the paved part because it's slicker than, goose snot. And, I mean, we've got that there, and I would really like to be able to utilize that.
I agree it needs to be fixed, let's run it by them first and then see where we're at.
I'll reach out to Richie and see what.
Okay. If not, like I said,
And then we'll figure it out.
I didn't want to wait till December and there's ice on the ground to be like, I have this and I'd like to fix it. So I just wanted to bring that to you now to give us a month or so to talk about it, see if we can figure something out to get it fixed by when there's ice and snow on the ground.
Okay.
Just because, I hate seeing it sit there and not be used.
I do too.
Because I know there was, should it go to another department or this or that? Can we use it year round? No. Can we use it for the fair and the football games and stuff? Absolutely. But I think we can really use it in the winter because we don't have any other vehicle that can kind of help in the capacity that we need. So I would just like to see that fixed, if
Alright.
possible. I know any money, to answer your question, that I don't have the money. I might have some of it left, but I know that I am going to be so over in fuel that I need every bit of extra that I've got that might come out of maintenance to be thrown at fuel, so I don't have to go back and ask. I'm already gonna have to ask for an additional appropriation, and the council's aware of that. It's just, if I can ask for $4,000 less, they're gonna be thrilled that I have to ask for $4,000 less.
Yeah.
So,
Well, just, wanna tip my hat to your crew last night. That was a pretty bad wreck last night. And your people were very, on top of it, no matter how bad or whatever. So,
we've had, the acuity of runs lately has been insanely high.
but,
So,
the crew on scene and you guys showing up, I mean, it was,
full disclosure, I did wreck a county tire last night, so it was my fault.
yeah.
I could have wrecked a county vehicle, but I chose to wreck the tire.
Things happen.
Yeah, actually, I heard on the radio, I'm sitting there with the patient, and all of a sudden I hear, 9101's asked for a record, and I'm like,
So,
so anyway,
and
Tell 'em
in my
I-
defense, state hit it first.
tell them I appreciate it, or we appreciate it, so,
Yep,
all right.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You talked about ordinances earlier.
I never got one.
Before we get started,
Yeah, that's awful.
this was on my bookshelf.
Okay. I wonder if you
my
got a little
office.
quiet over there walking.
Have you seen this?
I've seen a binder like that before.
And I'm gonna give it to you guys, and there's even still ordinances in here.
What year is that?
Just copies, I guess maybe that was published. That's pretty old, isn't it?
Hey, Nick. Nick.
Yeah. Yeah. I got some concentrated stuff in here, so it's gonna cost like $250.
Copyright 1995. But I figured either you or the council could use the
We may
book.
have or may not have these, so I'll take it, because this must have been passed out to a lot of department heads for like ordinances they had in place up to that date, 1995, so.
It
I'll
was
look and see if we've got copies of this.
sitting on my bookcase, and I figured you guys could use it more than anybody.
Speaking of that, did you hear about your counterpart, Greg?
Oh, he had a heart attack? Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
Seriously?
They put several stents in, and then his dad said they went back and put a couple more.
2 stents there. I made copies for you.
But I think he's
And I
he's
made
doing
you
all
a
right.
copy, Miss Tammy.
Thank you.
Cause he had went home and then he went back, so, anyway.
What this is it's a proposal. Every 5 years, we have to update our multi-hazard mitigation plan. It's, I guess FEMA says every 5 years it has to be done. There was 2 companies in the past, it was Polaris Center that done this. But this Burke, I saw they did Jackson County's multi-hazard mitigation plan. And part of the process is you have to send it to your surrounding counties that would provide assistance for their review. And it was really sharp, the way they did Jackson County's. So I reached out to them. It's a 75-25 grant. The grant's money's already there, okay? What they're gonna do is they're gonna take the grant money, which is a little over $18,000. The county's portion of 25%. This company said we can do in kind. And that basically means I'm gonna be attending a lot of meetings and doing a lot of posting and all that stuff. And as long as we provide like GIS files, all that kind of stuff is considered in kind. So the grant money that's already up at the state will go to them, and we don't have to contribute any more money. So
So our 25% is gonna be
it's gonna be me and whoever they suggest being on the,
blood, sweat, and tears.
yeah.
So we need to come up with about 4,500, something like that.
No, we don't have to come up with any money.
I thought we had 25%, you said.
Yeah, but all that is gonna be in kind.
Oh,
So like me attending meetings, our GIS files, all that kind of stuff.
all right.
So it's not gonna cost you guys anything.
So we have to do this anyway every
Yeah,
5 years.
Every 5 years.
And it's required.
It's required.
This like, I mean, I know it's a good thing, but is it like it helps us prepare for disasters and all that, or exactly what's it do?
It's the mitigation, it's what we would do in case of tornadoes, flooding, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Do we have any issues with the flooding recently? I mean, we've been able to get through that pretty well.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't hear any problems, I just, a lot of public was talking about it.
the main issue that is not really normal unless you go in like you did Saturday was 31 in front of O'Reilly's.
And
The storm
generally it's
drains
gone
just
within a
keep-
half hour,
That
yeah,
floods out.
As soon as it lets up, the storm drains can catch up and
yeah.
it's dissipated.
And it's weird, cause it's clustered, I was in Jeffersonville, it was raining, didn't know what the problem till I got home.
Yeah, and we didn't
And
get,
it flooded everywhere.
Jefferson and Switzerland County, they had actual houses swept away
Yeah.
and one death over in Jefferson County, so.
I think just what I'm asking is, I mean, we got a process and plan if some of this happens. We'll know right who to call, people will come out for housing and all that.
And
kind
it's
of
not
stuff.
just for us, if you can read in there, that's why I made you copies, like there has to be representatives from Austin and Scottsburg
Yeah. Okay.
attend these meetings, but they will tell me how many people need to be a part of this and who they should be. Like I'm sure it'll be one of you
Is
guys.
this anything like the tabletop that they do?
It's
Or is that
kind of like a tabletop, because you'll sit down, and you'll go over, okay, they'll look at the plan from 5 years ago. And then we'll discuss, okay, have we met those objectives that we wanted to? Is there any new objectives that we need to meet? So it's kind of like a tabletop. Then it goes into a big plan. We'll have to post it on the county website or make a copy and put it like the library so the public can look it over and make any comments before it gets finalized. And all that is considered as our payment.
Okay. I guess I'm gonna entertain a motion to accept this proposal, I guess, or is this isn't a,
It's a proposal, because if you look at page 3, there's a place for you to sign. And I brought the original,
This is a proposal just to prepare the plan.
yeah.
I'll make it.
It lays out what they charge and basically they're gonna take that 18,000. I mean, it's nothing that has to be signed. If you need to look over it, we can do it.
you're all right with that? I'll entertain that motion. John?
Motion made.
John made a motion, Randy?
Second.
Randy seconds that, and I'll make it unanimous, so. What else you got?
Just a quick update. I've had, in the last 2 months, I've had 7 employees out with COVID. My question is, if it were to come up, which I'm not saying it would, but should I send those people, say somebody calls me and says, hey, I took a home test and it was positive. Should I send them to like the health department to get tested? Or is it
I think it'd be a good idea.
I mean,
That's always been my issue with a home test, because how do you know that you took it? How do you know that it wasn't grandma or somebody else? I
Because
mean,
we're taking
Well, yeah.
goodwill
Who
that
knows, yeah.
yeah.
they get 10 days a year. And
And it might be a false,
Is-
it might be a false test.
Is the home test is accurate, is what they're
No.
using.
What I have found, that if they're positive, now I've not done a large study, but if they're positive, you're positive, but there's a lot of false negatives. Okay, so what I would ask myself, is there any monetary gain for someone to be positive? And if there is, I'd have a regular PCR at the health department, which is much more specific, if there's any. That's what I would advise.
well, they're taking 5 days quarantine and it's not coming out of their PTO or personal time.
You get 10 days.
They
We have
are,
a policy on,
we have a policy that they get up to 10 days paid
Per calendar year.
for quarantining, and of course now, or going by the CDC guidelines. So of course that changes. So, but it's also, if they've been exposed and had to stay home, it's not reoccurring 10 days, it's cumulative. So we deduct it, and when they run out of COVID time for the entire year, they're out, they don't have any incentive to be off anymore, because they have to use PTO or go unpaid because it's excused
It's a
absence.
simple test.
Yeah, but I don't like the idea of getting into forcing somebody to, I realize it's not like medical treatment, but
If you can
I
have
think
them,
the policy itself deals with,
Well, I don't want anybody to come in here if they've tested positive, whether it's at home or whatever, I mean,
because they send you a screenshot of their positive test, would that be a violation of their, I don't know. If they say I'm positive and then they show you that they're positive on their test at home, is that,
I mean,
I guess you
that's
could save a picture forever.
what
I
I'm
guess,
looking at,
but-
because somebody says, hey, I took a home test, I'm positive, okay, stay home for 5 days.
but it's no different in the past, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna say that
but so under the policy, I just want to understand it right, so I test positive, I stay home for 5 days. 2 months later, I test positive again, I stay home for 5 days. I've used my 10 days, so the next time I test positive,
you're done.
you don't get to,
You don't get paid.
you not get paid, you're just off,
You
right?
have to-
Or you
have
use
to
a
your
PTO
personal
day.
time.
Right.
Okay, so,
Now, if they get out running around or something, that's a
But
different
my,
ballgame.
but my whole thing with that was always been is that, say that I call in and say I was exposed to somebody that's got COVID. How do you know that I was exposed to somebody that's got COVID? I mean, it has always been a honest, aid type of thing as, hey, don't abuse the system, but
It had to be largely honor-based, because if my husband came home with COVID and under the old DC guidelines, I was supposed to stay quarantined too.
Yeah.
So how do you know I'm not lying about my husband?
That's
Because you
exactly
can't make my husband get his test results up.
Right.
So, you see what I'm saying? So it's one of those honor system things, and we just have to do the best we can with what we're given.
you
And-
see,
But
you
there's
think
also,
somebody's abusing
in
it,
the
then I guess
Policies
they-
Act, there is
Yeah.
disciplinary action
Yeah, I
if
think-
you falsify.
yeah, I think
Yes.
this is maybe putting the cart before the horse in
Yeah.
terms of like, I'm not saying it's not an issue, but I think in terms of addressing a situation like this, we would want to do it on an individual basis.
And if we later found out that there was something fictitious about that, that's in the policy,
found
that
out
there
they
was
were
disciplinary
US or
action
something.
against that.
Yeah, and I don't mean individual basis, like one employee has to go to the health department, one doesn't. I mean,
There's where we're gonna,
determining whether or not we think that there's an issue with an employee.
It was just,
I understand where you're coming from, but it's one of those things where if it's applied, it has to be countywide, or you're discriminating between employees within between
But
departments.
again, if the person's taking 5 days in Key West or Bahamas or something, I said, say that's probably.
It would- today marks the first day that everybody's back to work with masks. So I've had 3 out in the last 2 weeks,
Wow.
and all three came back
Happened at the corp's office
wearing
too.
masks, so.
It happened in my office. I had a couple people, and it
I just wanted clarification,
I'd
because
say-
I didn't know,
Take them for their honesty, and hopefully they're not pulling the wool over our eyes.
I don't think they
Follow the
are.
policy, I reckon.
The 3 that were recently off, I mean, they're still
Although,
coughing and hacking, and
of course, that was, although when we had this first started and we had a bunch of it happen down at the county highway, we had them go to the health department, but that was before the home test. So that was kind of a different animal
Yeah,
now.
I mean,
It-
I think in this situation, avoiding mandating a particular form of reporting would probably be
yeah. And I think they're all
preferable from
being
my
honest,
perspective,
I just,
but, and that is aside from the issue of if you had a concern regarding something, that's a different issue than what should the policy be.
Let me ask you this, I mean, what if an employee comes and says, I tested positive on a home test, but I'm not sure, but they wanna come to work, I mean, then you could say,
You
we'll
could
go to health
ask, you could
department.
say, well, if you don't think that that's,
If they don't trust the home test.
if you
Yeah,
don't trust that.
Go to the health
you
department.
Feel fine, go to the health department, and we would, I don't see any reason why we would not accept
I mean, one
That
of
a
them,
PCR test.
Right.
one of them wasn't feeling well, and I don't know if she took a home test, but she did end up going to the hospital and getting tested, and it was negative, so.
And
I
another
just
thing is,
wanted clarification that,
you gotta be a little careful because positive, negative has to do with like the viral load, and that can, you could be sick. You can test positive, feel fine, and then days later, you know, maybe you're starting to feel bad. I mean, I don't know exactly how it works, but I know that the test may not tell you, like, say they got that test at the hospital and says that they're negative, that might not mean that at some point they did not have COVID.
Yeah, my husband had a detected but abnormal result. How do you know then what you are at that point? But it's there, and he felt bad and he had all the symptoms, so you had to just err on the part that he was positive, because he didn't have enough viral load to throw it totally positive. But yet he was exhibiting all the symptoms and reacting to the virus, because it was detected, but it was abnormal.
So,
Jeff, do you have anybody?
you know, it's a touchy situation. I would say we're gonna do our best to handle it, and I'm glad
I just
that
wanted some
employees are all
clarification
back
on the home
and feeling
test,
better.
because, you know, not saying that I have anybody that would be dishonest,
oh,
but I'm sure it's happened in other places. Hey, I took a home test, I'm staying home my 5 days.
I think that this is a issue that is plaguing, not just governmental entities, but all employers across the United States right now, trying to figure out what is the right, you know, situation, not necessarily related to any particular employee, but just.
Yeah, so I know my wife's employer, she tested positive last year, and she went to the health department, and her employer said, nope, we won't take that, you have to go to one of our facilities.
Rick had the same thing at New Orleans. He's tested positive 3 times now, so.
Do you have part-time employees that you can call in, on-call basis?
Yeah.
So are we
Not very many, but,
are we hurting on manning the phones, or?
we've had to offer some overtime, which is fine, we've got the overtime budget. But, yeah, we've had to offer some overtime, because my part-time staff is, most of them work full-time jobs, so.
Actually, I even heard you on the radio, so that's scary.
I jump in there and help out.
Alright.
And the
Anything
only other
else?
thing is, last week and it's only for ADT, but now for ADT, police and fire alarms, they don't come in on the telephone. They come in through the, texty. So they text us if there's a police or fire alarm from ADT. And probably in the future, other alarm companies will start doing that, but.
Does that come up on your monitor?
Gives us the name, coordinates, alarm type, everything. It's a little quicker that way.
Has things changed? I'm not gonna ask this, cause I listen to the radio all the time, but years ago, somebody could call from a cell phone and you go, well, you know, he pinged over here, but it's almost like you can almost walk them to the person standing there with the phone. I mean, as technology's changed and you have that access to that technology.
Yeah, before, like last year when I, started with the, what's it called? Anyway, before, when we took a 911 call, and it was a phase 2 911, on our mapping system, it would give you a confidence radius like this. Well, last year when we went with the new company, and it was free of charge, now that confidence circle is probably 20 yards.
I would say, cause
So, and then if your phone's still active, it'll drop pins and show us where you're moving.
I know the state police had that, cause when we went looking for that kid out in Fenway, they called the state police in, the state police brought in their truck that can find the phone.
Yeah.
And they said it's standing right, it's right there, and they walked over and picked it up.
Yep, I can place a test call sitting in my office and it'll drop the pin right back in that area. So it's pretty accurate.
Okay. That's good to know.
And today yesterday I received an email from the state 911 board from the FBI that they're targeting 911 centers, dispatch centers, robocalls to tie up phone lines. So I sent that to Andrew and he came over today, and he doesn't own the 4462 or the 2496 for Austin and Scottsburg, but our non-emergency 5550 number, we put a block on that where now if you call that, you'll get a recorded message, press 1 for dispatch. And that'll take care of some of those robocalls. Filter those out so we don't get spammed and hacked into, so
Sounds good. Appreciate you.
I don't have anything else you got.
John, you got anything?
No, sir. Doing a good job.
Thank you, Jay.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Hope you use that.
Thank you.
Got consideration of the monthly claims for September. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at the claims?
Yeah, I'm good.
I know I had a
Thank you, sir.
question
I
or
have a
two.
typo on there again, it should be August claims,
I
payable in
had-
September.
I said September, August.
Thank you.
I know I asked Mandy to look up a couple things and she did, and I'm always appreciative of that, so. I'll entertain a motion to accept the claims.
I'll make a motion to accept claims.
Randy?
Second.
I'll make that unanimous, so. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at, actually, let me back up here a second, because there's some additional claims here. There's additional claims for, and I'm gonna say these all together, because we usually, vote on them all together, but looks like, Echo Tech for $22,965.21. The Refuge for $18,000. Baker Tilly for $2,100. So has everybody had an opportunity? I guess your paperwork's in your.
I'd like to interject
Go
something
ahead.
on the Ecotech,
Yeah.
because we have a budget attached to this Ecotech claim in your packet, okay? That is the transfer station's budget and general fund. So, we have in the we've got the auditor has authority to do transfers within categories, like the 1,000s, 2,000s, 3,000s. But intra-category transfers takes council approval. This claim that you have for Ecotech, and these are the haul-off charges of trash that's collected at the transfer station. This is for for June of 22, July of 22. $22,965. It's roughly $11,000 a month haul-off bill. Well, the transfer station and general fund, council still has to make cuts because of the budget. It's exceeded about $240,000. Okay, so they still got cuts, and this is in general fund. Transfer station only has $24,279.62 left to get for the rest of the year. If I transferred and got council to transfer everything in this budget, you've got $2,000 left. That cancels out all the payroll, it cancels out everything. I don't know where to take this money from, because we can get this claim out of here, but we're gonna need money to pay the rest of the expenses for the entire year, and if we're averaging $11,000 a month in trash haul off.
So, I guess, wouldn't there have been a budget? I mean, is there a reason why? Or is it just
Is it based
fuel?
on weight?
It's tonnage.
Is this not more of a council issue?
Well, it is, because I guess what we could do, in my opinion, is we could try to hold this claim. I want to bring it to your all's attention. We could hold this claim and then discuss with council the plight of this particular section of general fund, because general fund needs attention regardless, okay? It's got attention they need to pay to it. This is a situation where you guys have talked about you talked trash for a while, no pun intended. But these are things that you guys are gonna, as far as management in 23, what we need to look at for appropriations in 23. I think we need to go back and take a look at what happened the last couple of years. Are people disposing of more things? Is our tonnage increasing? That's, you know, something I think that needs to have some research done to it.
Well, I've always said, and, I know we've changed people out there, but I wanna rebid the people that haul off for us, because I know the city pays half of what we pay.
And those are the things I think you look at,
And-
okay? Because if we're looking at half, then we're looking at a lot different
And-
scenario a month. We're looking at
also-
2 months for one.
Also, the same thing with, what is it, the company that picks up at our satellite sites. We probably need to address that too, cause I wanna know if we're picking up a recycle or not, so.
Oh, yeah, over in Madison, yeah.
So if we're not doing that, then we don't need to be paying for it, so.
The last time I talked to them, they were bringing it over every week, so unless something's changed.
Okay, well, I know they hadn't been doing that, so.
Yeah.
Again, I guess my question here, this is a bill for June and July. That's half of the year, I mean, so we're already out of money in this budget line?
I mean, we're out of money in that line, period. Disposal fees.
But I mean,
Appropriation was $100,000 for disposal fees. And what happens at the end of the year, this account is typically
I know we always have.
negative.
We always have.
If
to
we
rob.
paid the bill, we don't want it to go negative. So the last couple of claims for the year before, a lot of times gets held over, like, we're in September and this is July. And I hate to say that out loud, and I'm on video right now, but that is how you can't appropriate. There's no time to get council to put money in place, so you have no choice as an auditor. You have to hold the bill, because an appropriation will be in place in January, and you pay it as soon as you can in January. Okay, because on December 15th, you can't get an appropriation in with council. You're done. So you have to wait 2 weeks and pay the bill. So then you've got money, so what you end up doing is carrying it from one pocket to the next, and you're gonna be short at the end of the year again. Council appropriated $100,000 for trash haul off for the year. And there was an adjustment in disposal fees, is where the adjustment for 3226 was where we used a line item, the auditor had authority to transfer into that. And so we had 103 to work with, and no money now left in that line, and we owe June and July's bill.
How much money has it generated this year?
Now, I don't have the revenue report, but you can't use that money this year.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I get that.
Right.
I'm on the.
That's for 23's planning, yes.
I got it.
Yeah.
I just wanna know is,
What their kind of revenues they're bringing in, right.
right. I wanna know
It's-
the numbers. I wanna
right.
know, are we hauling off more than we're taking in?
We have to look at the tonnage, because, again, I don't know what the ticket, I don't know that court says I write 5 tons received today. You know what I'm saying? He just receives it, and that's what Ecotech
Yeah, cause there, I
bills
don't
us
think,
for.
I don't think
Right.
there's a way.
I don't think
What
there's
I'm
a way
trying
to know what
What
we
I'm
took
trying to
in.
weigh out is whether or not do we need to raise our rates out there?
Those are things, again, you've got changing vendors for cost savings, rate changes. I'm not popular, but, I mean, the city changed their sticker price. I mean, and I know this is something you guys may or may not wanna do, but we're at 75 cents, the county's, at 75 cents, the city's at $1.
If we
If we-
raise it $1, what kind of revenue would that even?
You would almost break even on your remote satellite pickup sites if you raised it to
When
$1.
is the Ecotech contract, they got a week.
We don't have a.
We can
it's
just
a
change anytime we
flowing-
want.
I don't think there's a contract with them, I think it's just a,
I know we have a bond we carry. There,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
we'd
we
have to-
talked
I'd have
about
to look up
switching
the
a while back,
agreement.
I'd be for
Well,
looking
yeah.
at it,
I just like
Yeah,
to see what somebody else is,
yeah,
what somebody else would do it for. And I have approached the person that
yeah.
that did it for Scottsburg, but I don't know if they're interested or
I'd
not.
like to know the numbers though.
Yeah, cause you guys are
We
also
need to
looking
plan.
at
I
equipment.
thought you-
There's a lot
somebody told me
of,
they
there's a
were.
lot of moving parts
I
on
was
this
told they
one.
were
Yeah,
interested.
a lot of moving
I
parts.
don't know.
I don't
mean,
know either.
I asked them. So
Yeah.
I asked them to get us a quote, so,
I can ask you interested.
yeah.
So, if you guys wanna table this claim, council, we can work with them, we can try to figure out, because I also printed off your other two funds that you have at your discretion. And, you know, you've got 30,000 in one, I think, and 14 in another. Nick's gone now, but if the Kubota thing, when you guys get to looking at that, I think you can use your rental proceeds fund, to repair that Kubota, cause it's about maintenance for county property. Okay.
My question here is, and I'm like John, I think this is more of a council issue, because they're mid-year and they're out of money.
Mhm.
And-
Just like the fuel for Nick, I mean, it's a council appropriation.
And I'm sure Ecotech has probably put a surcharge on top of their haul bill for the escalated fuel price, so.
My husband and I went out to eat the other day and they put a surcharge on the food to change, cause they don't wanna reprint menus, so they put an extra on your bill.
So,
So-
anyway, I'll entertain a motion to table the Ecotech's, bill.
I'll make that motion.
John made a motion to table the paying the Ecotech bill, Randy.
I second it.
Randy seconds that, I'll make that unanimous, so we'll go back to the other two, the refuge, for $18,000 per, looks like per the agreement with the redevelopment, and Baker Tilly for $2,100, so.
And they're both for the,
Do I hear the motion to accept those two?
Yeah, those are already a lot of money, is that correct?
correct.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
John made a motion, Randy. Randy seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous, so.
Here we go, the vacuum.
Do I need to sign this?
I'll give,
got the original?
I'll give the originals here after that.
Payroll ratification for August 26th. Everybody had an opportunity to look at payroll.
Yes,
I'll entertain a motion.
motion made.
John made a motion, Randy. Randy seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous. Consideration of minutes for August the 3rd regular meeting. Everybody had an opportunity to look over the minutes and approve those.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
John entertains a motion, Randy. Second. Randy seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous, so. Sorry, give me a headache. We have a family leave. You're not ready yet.
Oh, I'm not,
You're not up yet.
Okay.
We're getting a little antsy there.
No, it was my fault.
We had two requests for family leave.
I attached a copy of the email that you were sent from one of these requests. And the other one is one you don't know about yet.
And don't get away, I need to ask you something like this, so.
Can you get quotes for carpet?
I still have the same,
I talked to Josh about that, and he said that's the only one he got. So we need to do something, well, I guess we don't, but I know the judges wanted that flooring to be done before they came back, so. So I guess we can open it up and look at it, see if it's something we wanna entertain.
Mike sign it?
no, you need to sign there for
But
redevelopment
then we have,
on the refuge, and then he'll sign
Not
that.
for where we wanna go with it.
well, that's why I told him to bid it for carpet and bid it for stuff like what's on this floor here.
That's
so.
it? Just the one?
Just that one. Thank you.
while we're doing that, Zach, you got any comments? Absolutely not. I thought you were gonna give us a speech, stood up there, like, tell us all about it. Anyway, there's another thing on here that I'd like to, acknowledge as well. We had a Findlay Township Board member pass away on Friday. Actually, he was also a county precinct committeeman for the Republican Party, and he's also the husband of our county assessor, so, everybody thinks about their family.
Didn't we talk about,
I've got on
Yeah, I see.
the service, visitation for Mr. Kozart is, Friday, beginning, I think at 10 o'clock. Mass is at 11, and I'm requesting that the assessor's office, out of respect for Diane and her husband, be closed from 10:30 to 1 PM so the staff can attend the services.
well, I was also thinking about sending some flowers.
Oh, yeah, we ought to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if that would be authorized by you guys, they can post a sign on the door.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, I'm gonna,
Well, I got one thing real quick.
well, wait a minute, I gotta
Okay,
go back to this.
all right.
I'll entertain these two leave requests, FMLA, so we wanna do them together.
That'd be fine.
I'll make a motion past both of them.
Randy seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous, so, go ahead, John.
I've just been notified that there's, over in our parking lot over here, we've had, 3 or 4 different cases of cars getting keyed over there. And most of them from out upstairs. And of course, the concern was, and maybe this would be something cities do or we do or do it together, maybe get some cameras up over there to watch the cars during the day. There's been, 3 or 4 instances where somebody's taking a car, just crashed the keys.
Could we get with, Andrew, maybe put,
I think
stronger cameras on the courthouse that would,
I've talked to him about that actually, and at first he said he didn't know if that would work, and then he said something about maybe they could get it to work. I know we've got cameras, Mike, but we're gonna use them on the poles at the websites. Either way, whatever he can do, I think you're right, that's what we ought to.
I just wondered if it would be cheaper because you
It
not
may
have to
be.
run the,
Well, the concern was, when I was talking to him out front about it, was how, from that distance, how close could you close in on to tell who it was?
We ought to be able to get
Yeah,
but they've got power over there, cause he's talking about putting some lights up over there,
Yeah.
so, for nighttime, so, I guess I can get with him and see if his IT people can put a camera up.
well, it's probation and,
could we hang them off the Democratic headquarters?
that's what we're doing, yeah, hang it up over there, yeah. You already got cameras watching us, I know you do.
We can't afford that, what are you talking about?
We're the poor people, we can't do that.
All right, Randy, you got anything else?
Yeah, I think maybe we need to, talk to Josh about having the cleaning services refrain from vacuuming while we're in a meeting.
Yeah, I'd say that.
They, I did talk to them about, is anybody doing the garbage thing, or the trash thing yet, any of the offices? They had requests that everybody would bag their own, trash cans, bag them, and have them set out ready to
I
haul off. I
don't
think
know
it's,
if you guys agreed with that or not, so I didn't send anything out.
yeah, well, I agree with it.
Or
but I mean,
Josh,
it's,
I mean,
and
if
it
that's
was,
something
it was,
you want him to communicate to them.
it was a request, not a demand,
Right,
or, you know, not a,
right. So if he
Yeah.
could, if he could suggest to the department heads to help them out that way, then I think
Yeah,
Josh, maybe you just let Josh.
I just had Josh go around and talk to them, see if they get any kickback, I guess he can come back and say something.
On trash, while you brought that subject up, and thank you for doing that.
oh,
Could we not do something about getting the trash out of the hallway on a regular basis? Move somewhere else where everybody don't have to walk by and look at all their trash.
I suppose we could, I don't know where, but yeah, I mean, that'd be a good idea.
I mean,
I don't know if we could, that'd be some better place.
I would think so. I mean,
Well, even if we get a,
Move it to the
one of
basement.
those enclosure things that, you know, it's out of sight, out of mind, it's behind something that everybody just can't see it. so.
Right.
You know, and while we're talking visuals, when you walk out the door, the concrete,
Yeah, correct.
I mean, and the whole, that whole section out there needs some serious attention, I think, including the rails. 'Cause that, I mean, there's a pretty good gash in the concrete there right in the middle of it.
The rails, I need to get back with, Southern Indiana Mechanical, because I talked with them one time, and honestly, this is me dropping the ball because I never got back in contact with them. But the railing needs to be cut and made in a way that it can be taken off, and blasted and painted and then put back up, and that's something that, as of right now, there's something down concrete, you can't get in behind them, you can't do nothing with them.
Well, I don't know what we can do with that slab of concrete right there, it's got a pretty good gash right in
We
it.
need to cut that
I
out.
don't know if you have to cut that whole section out, and,
That would be the right fix,
yeah.
is to cut it out, demo it out, and then
Mhm.
repoint it.
Well, I'm for having, I don't know who, having somebody look at it and give us an estimate, if we always do estimate. But I don't care who. I don't even, maybe something we can do here, maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
You wait for this fall, I'll help you, we can go out there and do it.
I don't, yeah, whatever it takes to get it done.
Also, I guess, that's, I asked Josh whether he was gonna get another quote or something for a carpet, and he acted like nobody was giving him anything, so, I don't know, we need to open that up and look at it and say,
I think, does the judge have a preference? Does he want it recarpeted for the noise?
I don't know, what do you,
I
See,
think-
that's
I
gonna
think
be
we-
the
I think we'd wanna
factor.
probably check on that, because I don't know that well, that might be, I think the new courthouses in Indianapolis are like this, but I haven't seen many locally that are,
I've always,
Washington County.
I've always said I think it needs to be carpeted for the fact that it is hardwood and it creaks and crooks and everything else, and
That's the only.
I think maybe talking to Judge Mount might be a good place to start.
I
Have,
agree with that.
Judge Mount and,
Marcia.
Josh talk with each other and
get a preference.
explain them.
Cause I asked Josh when I asked him for a quote, I asked
We
him.
are talking about this side, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we're asking about the whole top for the hallway.
Then maybe-
What I asked him to do was to put stuff like this in the hallway and then in the courtroom itself, to do it both ways, carpet and this stuff, to see what the expense was. He says it's about equal, so, but anyway, it's their preference too, but I'm just thinking every time I walk across that floor up there, it's like, I'd hate to see if it was this stuff,
Yeah.
cause, it'd be bad.
Yeah.
I think it wouldn't be as forgiving for the look.
I just have one thing, and I just wanna clarify something that was put out on social media, that we do have, some roadways in Scott County that this Board of Commissioners back in 2005 and 2007, actually passed ordinances on, I believe, 6 different roads to put a speed limit on these particular roads. So to clarify something that was said, where there is suggestion, there are these incidents where they are actually a law. I have got one, Kevin's trying to figure out, I did drive every one of these roads, just happened to be 5 of the 6 are in my district. And I will say that I found I found some speed limit signs on these roads, but there are others that have none. And so I've asked Kevin to look and see how much it's gonna cost us to properly post these signs. But I am gonna read the roadways that we're talking about here is, and if ordinance number 2005-7, and this is on Arbuckle Road, and the speed limit is for 30 miles an hour. Like every one of these are 30 miles an hour. Ordinance number 2005-8. This is for Hardy Mill Road, and the speed limit is also 30 miles an hour. The other one is ordinance number 2005-9, and this is for Lover's Lane. And if you'll leave the city of Scottsburg here on Lover's Lane from Main Street, as soon as you hit the county, the end of the city limits, there is a 30-mile-an-hour speed zone there. But the rest of the road, they've either not been put up or whatever, but that's another road, 30 miles an hour. Ordinance number 2005-10 is for Underwood Road, 30 miles an hour, and that runs from 356 all the way to the county line. So once again, there's another one. Ordinance number 2005-11. This one is for Polk Road. And this one also, again, is for 30 miles an hour. Actually, it says 35 on here, but I think that was in a meeting minutes that I have also, that they changed that from 35 to 30.
I can't remember that one for sure.
I've got it right here.
I think it was 30.
It was a typo or something. It was a proposal because they said,
It was adopted as amended.
yeah, it was amended. You're exactly right. So there's that one.
And you're
And-
saying all these are 30 miles.
Every one of them's a 30. And then the last one here is, this was done in 2007, so it's ordinance number 2007-05, and it is for Concord Road, and it is 30 miles an hour. So we are getting those that aren't posted. So just to clarify that there are roads out here that we have. Also, speaking with our attorney, there is a little IC code that says that if we determine that there's an urban area, and an urban area is designated as businesses or homes within 200 feet of each other in a quarter of a mile area, that we can deem those urban areas and post them at 30 miles an hour.
Well,
Go ahead.
just to clarify, we wouldn't deem them as urban districts.
They are.
They are
Yeah.
urban districts, period. And the speed limit is 35 miles an
Oh, it was 30.
hour. 30.
30. But
So
can we not,
anyway-
can we not, in our process, we can lower it to 25?
If there's a speed study
If
or a traffic study.
decrease the limit within urban districts, but not less than 20.
But that would take a study by us to do that?
Yes.
But the urban clarifies, if correct, we do not have to do a road study, speed study, if we determine
Put signs up.
urban areas.
If, correct. So, I mean, by state law, 30 miles per hour in an urban district, that is the speed limit.
Once the signs are posted.
Once, yeah, I mean, we
Okay.
have to post the signs.
So this may save us the $35,000 that we're talking about doing speed studies.
Mhm.
And in some areas where people want people to slow down,
Correct.
you know, they can come and say, hey, we want
We
to.
would kind of just, I mean, and again, the urban district, let me check.
The nice thing about that too,
Let me
it's
check
state,
the actual
it's,
citation.
I'll ask you now.
and it'd be state law, it's not a ordinance type
That's
thing.
state law, yeah.
So we don't have to, and the reason I bring that up, just on the ordinance ones, I think it'd be a suggestion we put on those signs where it's 30 miles an hour per county ordinance, because that's gonna be very confusing for state police.
It's okay, so, under the state law, if a local government authority exercises its ability to
Okay.
decrease or increase, depending on what areas we're talking about, it's not prosecuted like an ordinance violation. I was looking something else up, but let me pull,
Wouldn't that be a moving violation?
no, it's actually an infraction
By state law.
by state law.
So our ordinance would make it an infraction.
Correct.
Okay.
So, Subsection G, except as provided in subsection H, a person who exceeds the speed limit established by a local authority under this section commits a Class C infraction. A person who exceeds the speed limit that is established under subsections D or F commits a Class B infraction. I believe that those deal with particular zones, relative to, school districts and things like that, but, I mean, it is, once you alter the speed limit and post it, that changes the speed limit. It's
So all
not
police
necessary
departments
to
can-
distinguish between ordinance and,
So any police officer could decide, so, okay, that's good, that's the opposite, I've been told for as long back as I can remember, but that's good news.
I mean, I don't,
Well, it is for areas that we
Yeah.
have people saying, we'd like people to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
And now we can do it without having to go spend $35,000 to do a speed study, we
On
can
the
just
urban
do it.
district, yeah.
We can just do it, so.
Good job.
So anyway, I don't have anything else, anybody else got anything? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
John made a motion, Randy?
Uh,
Randy seconds that, I'll make that unanimous, so.